Hello, Joyce Anderson, are you there? So I'm going to begin today, and I wanted to talk a little bit about, sorry for the noise outside if you hear that. I wanted to talk a little bit today about Memorial Day, the first Memorial Day, and I want to get back into the conversation that we've been having lately. And that conversation's been pretty heavy, and I also still think that it's important and relevant, and that it's something that we can continue to talk about until we are done with it. I think, though, we may only have one more conversation. Good morning, Joyce Anderson. How are you? So I'm sure you hear me. Hopefully the truck outside is not too loud and that it will go by. Happy Memorial Day to you, or Happy Decoration Day to you, Joyce Anderson. So I wanted to begin with a short meditation and prayer again for the squad. Hello, Sharon Augustine. Happy Memorial Day / or maybe I should start with Happy Decoration Day / Memorial Day to you too, Sharon Augustine. And so I'm going to be talking about an article that was printed in the Post last year about Decoration Day. And I want to continue talking about the importance of unity in the squad. Yesterday was a pretty heavy day. So I think during those times we need to pause and take a deep breath and remember our purpose and try and find our way back to said purpose, right? So I think remembering things like Decoration Day and how those things impact us even today can be significant. Hello, Aaron Mack. Good afternoon. So are we ready for this conversation? So before we begin and even before I get to our meditation, I wanted to say that I think that part of the conversation that was happening, and that is still happening, has to do with us all being, not all us, but for those of us who are in our feelings, I think it has to do with, it feels like you're attacking some part of me, right? So if we are in the corner and we are on the side, if you will, in quotation marks, of the First Lady of Nigeria, when we engage in this conversation and we discuss our feelings, for some of us, it feels like we are being attacked. When we are on the side of, or when we say that, no, the words were harmful, this is what I heard, for, I'm going to say specifically African Americans and potentially other people in the diaspora, but it feels like you're also attacking me, right? So how do we help each other to understand that we are affected, we are afflicted by these things, and it feels personal to us, right? I think that everyone can agree to disagree and still love each other, says Joyce Anderson. I am Meghan Markle. Yes. Is there nothing on the screen? Let me put my picture up for the day. Let me turn this off. I'll put this one up then, since it's up. So this is a book. See if you can see that. Yes, you can. So this is a book called A Day for Remembering, about the first Memorial Day and how the first Memorial Day was started in Charleston, South Carolina, to remember the Union soldiers and the Buffalo soldiers specifically, all of them who fought to help African Americans get freedom in this country, and how we are still wounded by a lot of those things, right? Because of something that's called epigenetic trauma. So epigenetic trauma, and this is not, generic disclaimer, this is not a therapy session, right? Hello, Ingrid. So this is not a therapy session. And at the same time, I hope that some of this can continue to be therapeutic, if you will. Sharon says, we're on those streets again, my dear. Marvin says, we're on the streets again, my dear. Thank you. Yeah, we've got to do this work, don't we? So this book, if I have this book for my kid, and I teach him about Decoration Day, if you will, and a lot of different holidays. But this is one that's really beautiful. And so I guess I am just going to kind of dive into Memorial Day, and we can see the intersections of Memorial Day and how those things apply to us. Hello, 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 Connie Balmer. So, a day for remembering, right? It's a colloquialism where we drop the letter, the last letter of words often. Sometimes it's the middle one. And so if you have a kiddo in your life, or, if you like to read books, even children's books, I recommend this book highly. It's really beautifully done. So, the first Memorial Day. What is this? This is a derby. This is a picture of a derby. Let me see if I can get that article. Okay. Yep, got it. So, here's the title of this Washington Post article from last year's Memorial Day. And it says, Black people may have started Memorial Day. Whites erased it from history. Well, we understand that we have an oral history, and with most Black families in this culture that I live in the United States, and I understand too that other people from around the diaspora do the same thing. We keep these histories and we tell these stories to our children. And so here we go. On May 1st, 1865, thousands of newly freed Black people gathered in Charleston, South Carolina for what may have been the nation's first Memorial Day celebration. Attendees held a parade and put flowers on the graves of Union soldiers who had helped them liberate them from slavery, or I say enslavement. The event took place 3 weeks after the Civil War surrender of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, and 2 weeks after the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. It was a remarkable moment in U.S. history at the nexus of war and peace, destruction and reconstruction, servitude and emancipation. But the day would not be remembered as the first Memorial Day. In fact, white Southerners made sure that for more than a century, the day wasn't remembered at all. And that's for them. That's not for people who have oral history. So it was, because if you think you hold all the history in the books, until the lion learns to speak, the tales of history will be weak, right? But history still speaks, because in a culture that has oral history, the history is literally spoken. It is not read. So it was a kind of erasure from public memory, says a professor at Yale. In February 1865, Confederate soldiers withdrew from Charleston after the Union had bombarded it with offshore cannon fire for more than a year and began to cut off supply lines. The city surrendered, leaving a massive population of formerly enslaved people. So, after this happened, African Americans went to bury their dead. So in April, about 24 of Charleston's freedmen volunteered to disinter the bodies and rebury them. These men were buried in unmarked graves, writ mass, like in mass, in unmarked graves. And so 24 Charleston freedmen, formerly enslaved people, and some Black people who were not enslaved at that point, volunteered to rebury them at the site that you see, right? That is the literal site that they are buried at. So it's called the Clubhouse at the Charleston Race Course. And on May 1st, about 10,000 people, mostly formerly enslaved people, turned out for a memorial service that the freed people had organized along with an abolitionist, right? And so since that time, those days' events began at 9 a.m. Some people were on CP time. If you know, you know. Led by about 2,800 Black school children who had just been enrolled in new schools. And so this holiday continues to this day. And so let me show you some other pictures of the site. So that's one. This is how Harper's illustrated this thing. I think it was a year or two later. But it couldn't be buried because they had illustrated it also in magazines. And this is the site today of where the first Decoration Day was held. So again, that oral history will keep us informed, and I just think it's such a beautiful thing. So happy Decoration Day first. And then now that holiday was it was absorbed, I will say, into a larger holiday now that celebrates not only the Union soldiers who died fighting for African Americans' freedom, but also anyone who has died in any conflict or war in the United States. And most countries have, I think at this point, similar ceremonies. So any comments, any thoughts on the first Decoration Day? If you knew about this, can you put a 1 in the chat? Anybody? 1 in the chat if you had any idea that this was how Memorial Day started. And this is the case with lots of holidays in this country that began in a certain kind of way. So Martin Luther King Day, again, began with mostly African Americans saying that we want him to have a holiday, and that was a long kind of battle fought in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And then Stevie Wonder wrote a song, and we know how music is and how music can inspire, and we've talked about this before, right? So the happy birthday song that we sing in my family is the Stevie Wonder song, and I know I've said this before. I just still love that song. And so that music, I think, played a large role in that holiday becoming a holiday. And so it was, I think, a national holiday in every state except Arizona for a while. The great Senator John McCain was against it in Arizona, and that will forever, I think, be a stain on his memory that he was against the Martin Luther King holiday. And so then there were things like, we won't play Arizona. There were protests against the state of Arizona during the time that Arizona didn't recognize Dr. Martin Luther King's holiday as a national one. And so people, they were pretty upset about it. And they were just like, nope, we're not going to spend our money there. We're not going to do this there. And Arizona was seen as a state that, allegedly didn't like black people, didn't care about black people. And so then after that, and I think they still have a bit of that stain on them because, it is what it is. So let's see, Sharon says, I live in Canada and I appreciate your sharing about your beautiful country. Thank you so much for that. And I think a lot of African Americans were absorbed into Canada because when they escaped this country, Canada didn't have fugitive slave laws. So that the only place you could really be free after, I think it was the Dred Scott decision, don't quote me on that, I think it was though, where they had fugitive slave laws, then black people had to go all the way from the South. And if they had made it to freedom in northern states, they still risked being re-enslaved. So when they got to Canada, they were completely free. Not against all racism and stuff like that, but there is, what's that island in Canada? Oh, Anne of Green Gables, I think, the island. Anyway, a lot of them went there. There's some famous actors, but lots of black people, most of the black people who are Canadian and didn't immigrate recently are, not native to the United States, but they were brought here first, and then they escaped to and fought on the side, some of them on the side of King George even, Queen Charlotte's husband. That's why I liked Meghan living in that house, during the Revolutionary War. So from that time period, black Americans left this country, had to escape because King George promised them their freedom. So there we are. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Joyce. Yeah. Great. Joyce said she knew that. Any other comments? Let's see. Nope. I don't see any other ones. So, in the spirit of Decoration Day, we are all a part of this community. And I think that some of us are still in our feelings about this thing. And I think a lot of us are better. I think that we hit like a critical point, and now maybe it's time to figure out how we move forward from that space, right? So, and how we refuse to engage in diaspora wars, because we are all one community. We are all here for Meghan the Duchess of Sussex. We all want to be here for Meghan the Duchess of Sussex, and we want to be here for each other. And sometimes when we have a breach, when we have a wound, it's necessary to clean that wound so it doesn't get infected and cause any larger damage to, the community or in Oregon. I think that we began that work. I'm sure a lot of other YouTubers also began that work. And as a result of that, we started that process of moving forward. And so how do we continue that process, right? So let's see. Slideshow. I have... let's see. This slideshow. Let me see if I can turn this one off. So you've seen this picture. This is another one of the emojis that I designed, right? It's called "These Trolls Ain't Royal." How many of you know that reference? These trolls ain't loyal. If you know that reference, put a 1 in the chat. Thank you, Joyce. If you know the word that's used commonly is not trolls, right? It's something else. But these trolls ain't loyal. So, let's see. I have 3 or 4 different slide presentations that I made for today. Let me turn that one off. Turn that one on. Nope, you can't see that one yet. Okay, here we go. Okay, Sharon says she knows the reference. Yeah, it's sort of how I feel about the UK. It is how I feel about, unequivocally, how I feel about the media's negative portrayal of, Kay says yes, of our Duchess, right? That these people, these trolls, if you will, ain't loyal. They don't care about our Duchess, and they don't care about us. So I'm going to turn these off and get to the next slide presentation. So here we are on, this is what came to my mind today. If you know this, the first part, can we all get along? Do you remember Rodney King? If you remember Rodney King, put a 2 in the chat. And what happened to Rodney King in this country? So, Rodney King was in Simi Valley, California, when he experienced police brutality, right? And so, one statement that he said, we had this reckoning in Los Angeles where residents of the city burned it down because the police officers who used excessive force beat Rodney King. They were acquitted. So the black community in Los Angeles lost their collective minds and started burning the city down, right? And so Rodney King, at a certain point, said, can we all get along, right? Because even though the brutality was visited upon his body, literally, he also didn't like to see what was happening with the city. But not even just that, that is really at the heart of it for me. Even this whole diaspora wars, if you want to call it, or misunderstanding, or shade, or however we see it. It is that we need to figure out a way to just get along, right? And in that process, it's a healing process. We recognize that there's been a wound, and we also recognize that we love each other and want to be able to move forward. How do we do that? We have to find a way to get along, right? Kay says, may he rest in peace. Joyce says, I remember Rodney King. Yeah, so how do we do that? If you have ideas, put it in the chat. Let us know how you think we make a shift. I have some ideas, And my ideas are definitely not the end all be all in this discussion. So let's see, I'm going to move on to the next slide. I think you can see that. So the next slide has to do with, okay, meditation. Let's do that. So before we dive into this subject today, let us do a quick meditation, right? So I want everybody to take a deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and then slowly exhale. And again, take a deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and then slowly exhale. As you breathe, focus on the unity within yourself and the connections that you share with the squad, with others around the world, because we are a community that exists in the all around the world, right? And so I'm going to say that one more time. Take a deep breath in, focus on unity within yourself and the connections you share. Hold it for a moment, and then slowly exhale. All right. So, non-denominational prayer. Spirit of unity and understanding, we come together today to bridge divides and foster healing within our community. May our words and thoughts be guided by love and respect. Help us to listen with open hearts and speak with kindness. Amen. Okay, so how are you guys feeling? Oh, I didn't switch the slide. Nope. Back to this one. Any comments? How's everybody feeling? Did that help? I know there were 11 slides here. Why can't I see them? Amen. Thank you for that. So I think this is the one we need. So I'm going to change the slides. Okay, Beverly says one. Sharon says good. How'd you guys sleep? Did anybody have trouble sleeping last night? Is anybody sort of obsessing about what's happening in the, out there in the world? And has anybody come up with any sort of solutions or things that they want to share? Okay, Sharon says, okay, yep. Feeling good, very, very good. I know that everyone has an opinion, including me. I can agree or disagree. Use marriage as an example. My husband and I were married for 42 years. He died of cancer. Feeling great. Okay. Cancer. And then Louise says, feeling great. Kay says, I'm Gucci. Sharon says, I slept like a baby. So good. My sleep was okay. It wasn't terrible. It was, when I woke up yesterday, I thought that I would have bad sleep, but it didn't end up being that way. I was okay. Joy says, hello, Professor Zinzi. And to all these people. Good. Hope everyone's having a blessed day. The trolls don't care about any of the other royal family members either. If they did, they would be more concerned about Kate. Whew. Say that like snaps, right? Yes. Because, I watch, or I see another, and I know you guys see her too. Some of you. Tisa, right? I'll say her name. What she reports, and she has a way about her reporting. But the thing is that she's trying to keep them accountable about this scenario where we haven't seen the actual image of, or let me say allegedly, we saw a video that some people suspect is AI of the Princess Royale or Princess Royal about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. It's been a minute, right? But it was a video, right? So and it seems like every time that the conversation gets to a kind of fever pitch around said princess, then something comes out in the media. Oh, this is what they say is happening around her, right? And so, but we don't, I mean, I don't know. What is the evidence? Like, I can't say for sure. Kay's burner account says, not obsessed, a bit annoyed. It is what it is. I'm not giving haters energy. Yeah, love the flowers. Love the flowers. So we're putting flowers out for Decoration Day. Good, good, good. So I'm going to move on from this meditation to the next slide. And hopefully you guys can, I'm sure you can see it. It's showing on both screens. So... okay. Yeah, I watch her. I don't watch him. He had a bit of controversy, I'll say that, and ever since then I have not been able to watch him. I don't know if you're aware of that, but yeah, I have that thing in my personality. So the next slide says, and I can't see what you're writing, guys, right now, so I'm just gonna read this, right? It should be on your screen. Differences between Meghan and the First Lady. And I'm really talking about the speech. I'm talking about the First Lady and the speech, right? What are the differences between Meghan Markle and the First Lady of Nigeria in this scenario? Meghan, as an African-American biracial woman, navigates multiple cultural identities and has become a global figure representing women, diverse identities, right? The First Lady of Nigeria, on the other hand, embodies traditional African values or Nigerian values and cultural pride. Meghan's journey reflects a blend of her African American heritage and her experience in the British royal family, often challenging norms and advocating for change. The First Lady's remarks come from a place of, some would say, preserving cultural heritage and traditional values, which sometimes contrasts with the more fluid cultural expressions in the diaspora. All right? So this is what I'm thinking, right? So, let's see. So before, my screen is a mess. Before I get to that, let me go back to where you guys are and see what you're saying. Where's my chat? Did it go away? There it is. Okay, so let me move to the next slide for you guys too. So let's see. Kay's burner account says, yeah, I'm aware, but if he's dragging these people, I'm here for it. Okay, got you. I'm working on that in my own personality around, and I think for me it's a safety thing. So, yeah, for me, it's a safety thing. And my mom was really good at navigating those kinds of things, and I am just not as good. So, anyway, let's see. So, there are differences between the Duchess and the First Lady and their speeches, not their speeches, and what happened. And we are aware that there is always this attempt to drive a wedge between, to dislodge the squad from the Duchess. And what I'm hoping is that this is not going to happen. And I think with some cultural understanding, not even just understanding, but some cultural empathy for each other, that may go a long way to help. But we'll see. Because I think this is a relationship that we are all in, right? And when we are in relationship with people, we have to figure out, if we want to stay in relationship with people, if this thing is valuable to us, we have to find a way not just to maintain it, but to also help it to thrive. And, I'll say I was a photography student, right, for a while in college. Took a bunch of classes, enough to get a major, but I didn't do all the other things that I needed to do to finish it, so didn't complete that. But anyway, in photography, when you're printing, when you're photographing, you make these mistakes. And often, in making these mistakes, there's a discovery that happens. Oh, I overexposed that. Oh, that's a long exposure. The light looks really cool that way. Oh, that looks like a tattoo on her face because I did a double exposure accidentally. And so that's how we learn and we grow too. So when I used to teach younger people, we would talk about, kids would say, I'm a perfectionist. And I would talk about, when we make a mistake, our brain teaches us not to make that mistake again. And so, but if we don't do that, then we don't have that experience, and it doesn't get imprinted in the same way, right? Joyce Anderson says, I know that if Meghan hadn't been seen for as long as Kate had been seen, people would want to know where she is. No one seems to care about her in the media to me. It does seem a bit like protect the monarchy. What? I mean, at all costs. I said what? It does seem a bit like we need to protect the monarchy at all costs, like no matter what. And that's a bit scary to me, that someone can seemingly disappear and then, not show up for months and months and months. Because, after the sighting of the ambulance or all those cars at the house, at the KP, and then, so the lady in the farmer's market with the guy skipping and running, how is that a thing? And then how does that get explained around this person not showing up anymore in any form of media? Like, we don't see her. No, the next time we see her, I'm really sick. But yesterday there was this skipping by this person that they say, that is it being attributed to you. So how do we go from skipping happily in the farmer's market to we're really very sick and can't really be seen on camera? The weight is different, the face is different, and all of these things are different with you, right? Gracie says, many children are dying of hunger in Nigeria, and my first lady was talking about traditional culture. That's misplaced priorities. Archwell was in Nigeria to help our children and many veterans, and somebody got jealous. So I'm going to get to that. Yes. Okay, so back to this. Thank you. So let me see what the PowerPoint says is insights from my friend. I think I told you I have a friend I said Nigeria. She's from Warri, from that region. And so I had a conversation with her yesterday. And so let me read what I wrote. I recently spoke with a friend from Warri who shared insights on tribal and cultural differences within the Nigerian community and how these may have influenced the dialogue. She talked about Nigeria being a diverse nation with over 250 ethnic groups, each with unique languages, traditions, and perspectives. She also said that these internal differences between culture and tribal differences, and also around money and oil, and even like farmlands and what happens, can affect this dialogue between even the kings and the first lady. So these internal differences can affect how public statements are perceived. For many Nigerians, many, the remarks were, they resonate with the desire to preserve cultural values amidst global influences. Criticizing these remarks can, for some people, feel like an attack on them, their cultural integrity, and national pride for some people, right? Furthermore, there's a concern that the backlash against the First Lady's comments might jeopardize the upcoming Invictus Games that they were trying to hold in Nigeria. And those Invictus Games could have been significant for, on the international stage. All right. Any thoughts, comments around that? Where are my... let's see. Nope. Okay. So then I'll move on to the next slide. So I'll just discuss this conversation I had with my neighbor. And she was saying she's from Warri, and she was talking about, she really got into this dialogue about farmland and how these, she said, warlords would come in after certain lands had been cultivated, for farming to feed people, and as an act of brutality, these warlords would come in and use the food that was produced on these lands to feed their horses, to graze their horses. And I said to her, my great-grandfather was a cowboy as defined by, this country. But I believe we descend from the Fulani because of all of the things that he did and he knew. And so this is in the 1800s, right? So She said, how unfortunate. So she was throwing shade at the Fulani. I was like, what? But then she went on to discuss like why she has a kind of distaste for, and she has cultural pride, and she has her own, she's Igbo, so she hails from the Igbo people, and her family has been affected by the oil region, because in her words, they control the oil. So, and they're not allowing a lot of other people who are from Nigeria to benefit from the oil that the whole country, in her mind, should be able to benefit from, and her people. So that's her thing about Warri. And so she was like, and we also had a conversation around, human nature and jealousy. So if what you want, and we see this every day, could it be that there was some, how come the kings haven't come to see me? How come I'm not significant on this stage? How come? And then people in the squad have even talked about that they believe, allegedly, that the king of, King Charles may have had something to do with it. Because this is like 3 weeks later. And so now we're coming in 3 weeks later trying to find something. And of course it's going to be magnified, and it's going to be dissected, and people are going to be in their feelings, because it is a perceived slight by some people, just like people, and that's where the can we all get along comes from. And it feels like you're attacking me. Like, this hurts me, because when you say these things about the First Lady, I feel like that somehow you're being slick, and you think you're being slick, because this hurts me when you say these things about the First Lady. This hurts me, and so I will say that's not what was intended. I will say, and then people who are in their feelings, even me maybe, not even acknowledging that could be a thing. Like, yes, I want to acknowledge that your pain, right? And I also want you to see mine, right? So we're both in these different corners, or like some of us are in these different, in our feelings about whatever was said. So yeah, let's get to that. Let's see. Mary Mann says, the aim is to jeopardize the games, but sensible squatties will move on from the foolishness of the first woman. Yeah, and so even when I'm talking to my neighbor about I tried to make a parallel between the First Lady of Nigeria and the First Lady, my forever First Lady, Michelle Obama. And she's like, no. It's not even in that lane. And I'm like, oh boy, I'm trying to connect. She's like, no. She didn't feel the same way about the First Lady of Nigeria as she feels about Michelle Obama. She held Michelle Obama in really, really high esteem in the same way that I did. So we, connected around that. And I just tried to make a parallel. She's like, no, it's not that serious. So I'm like, okay. So Herbert says, let us choose our battles well. First Lady's comment may not be kind. However, let us not lose sight of the goal and fall into the hands of the derangers. And then Gracie says, if someone tell my First Lady that children want something to eat, not to wear, I'm of Igbo tribe. My culture is different from the First Lady culture. She's not speaking for all Nigerians. Okay. I'm going to take a deep breath, right? Yeah, you said a lot. I'm going to read that again. Can someone tell my First Lady that the children want something to eat, not to wear? I am of Igbo tribe. My culture is different from the First Lady's culture, so she's not speaking for all Nigerians. Okay, all right. So, and here is an example that there can be in a country. We are not, and in the squad. And so I think, too, that it's good that we are here in a way. Because we are not, even though people will say that we're the same, we're not a monolith. Even in my own household, my family's household, we never perfectly align. Not even with my mama, like never perfect. My mom would be like, my child, ugh, but never perfectly aligned on almost any subject. There would always be slight differences. Let's see. Mary says, first woman's comment disparaging of the culture of others is very distasteful. Okay. Bail Bond says the first lady should not have talked about culture. She's from the Yoruba tribe, and the title given to Meghan by the four kings is unprecedented. Firstly, kings do not mix, and the kings do not honor women. Woo! The kings do not mix and do not honor women. Okay, so I'm going to read that again if it doesn't go away. The first lady should not have talked about culture. She's from the Yoruba tribe. The title given to Meghan by the four kings is unprecedented. Firstly, the kings do not mix and the kings do not honor women. Okay, so the kings don't, so this, and so I made a kind of silly comparison, but it was one that I thought of, like the welcoming of baby Jesus when you had the three kings come together to honor. That's what it felt a bit like me. It felt like Kunta Kinte, I found you, you old African, is what Alex Haley said when he went home and found his people, right? I found you, you old African, and they welcomed him, and they had the jolly, and some people will say griot, the French word, but they had the jolly there interpreting and going back and doing the history all the way to when Alex Haley's ancestor went into the forest, if you will, to get a drum for his brother's birthday. So that history for him, the jolly / griot, again a French word that I don't typically use, but since it's common in the diaspora I will, went to find it. And so he just in his enthusiasm was like, I found you, you old African. And so for me, that was what the kings represented to me when Meghan went back and they were like honoring her. I'm like, oh, this is one of those moments. So we do like love each other. Like this was an affirmation that the diaspora wars are not as significant as I may have thought in the past. And then there's this whole confirmation bias because, again, the brain is always like, okay, looking for evidence, like we don't really get along. We want to love, we do. And one small thing can come in and feel like a huge disruption, right? So, let's see. Bill Bond says, the title given to Meghan is of the Igbo tribe, so the first lady had no right to talk about Meghan, a princess of the Igbo land. That's what my friend said. She's also Igbo. She said, and because of the oil, she also talked about the cultural differences, and she said that lady shouldn't have spoke. Because I said, shouldn't there be a reverence for the kingdoms that are this old and that are this respected? And she's like, yes, and at the same time, there is jealousy and there is also a disconnect from around this thing, right? So why is Meghan being honored? And I think that there was a kind of equality that they're both bringing to the space. Meghan is bringing the diaspora from the United States and other places too, who see her on the stage and feel like, not even just the US, the entire diaspora, when she's welcomed home, I believe many of us felt like we were also welcome home, right? That was, like I said, that moment from Alex Haley in the Gambia, when he went back to the Gambia and so I was like, oh, she's really welcomed, she's really loved, right? And so just thinking in those terms, and then when this person comes in and says this thing, who is also, in my mind, a kind of Michelle Obama, being representative of the country, who's saying, nah, why you come here looking for Africa? What you come here looking for in Africa? I mean, these are not her exact words, but it was like, dang, like, really? You don't want us there? So it was like a slapping down of, what she come here to Africa looking for? She said Africa, too. She didn't say Nigeria. She said Africa. And so we're just like, okay. So for a lot of us African Americans and probably other people from the diaspora and probably some Nigerian Americans too and others, it was a kind of hurt that happened, right? And so let's see. Hello. Hello. It's going so fast. Bill Bond says, thanks for that info. This just reinforces my thoughts that the critique of the First Lady was rooted in jealousy. She was resentful of how Meghan was received and made shaded comments. That's exactly how I felt. And so, like, if I want to go back to, and I've never been to Ghana. Like, I was planning on, I want to go to Ghana. I've always wanted to go to Ghana. The only place I've been to in South Africa is, I'm sorry, in Africa, the continent is South Africa, right? And I want to go to Botswana, and I want to go to Tanzania, and I want to go to, I really want to go back to West Africa though next, right? So, but it was like, oh, they don't want you here. It felt personal. Did anybody else in the chat feel like that? Did you take it personally when you felt that slight? Like, it felt like a slight. And I understand that a lot of other people were like, no, that's not how she meant it. And for me, like, my body, the brain and the body are the same because our neurons run throughout this is my belief, through our entire body. That's how it's connected. So my body, I felt myself go into myself. Like, it was a real wound when this thing happened for me. I was like, oh. And it hurt. It really did. I'm like, dang, like, on this whole world stage, with everybody watching, you're just gonna humble like Kendrick Lamar. I'll say, be humble. You're gonna try and humble her. And that's when it's important for the squad to speak out against it. And I feel like we have to try and speak with one unified voice. Mary Mann says, the first woman spoke nasty of the Met Gala and U.S. actresses, which involves the art form in another country's culture. Fatima says, I think the First Lady in Nigeria, she's jealous. And all this negative dropping, this Princess Meghan name without no explanation. Like she's shady. And I want to show you guys something. Let me see if I can move on to this next slide quickly. I'll skip. Because I had something about the Met Gala too. So we have her. Okay. So you see this picture? This is how camp was created. Camp is what the Met Gala does. That's Halle Berry. Baps is the name of the movie. This wasn't explicitly the time that it was created. But it was created from this culture. And Anna Wintour, just like all these designers, came into culture. And it happens to be Black queer culture. And most of us, if, we have Black people in our family who created another culture that is queer/gay culture, right? However you think or feel about it, they created camp. This belongs to these Black queer people. And of course, you have Anna Wintour coming in, seeing it, like, turned and most designers too. So many designers are queer / and belong to that culture too. But for the Black queer community, they created what Anna Wintour turned the Met Gala into. And so when the First Lady's attacking that too, I'm like, dang, she's attacking Black people on that too, because a lot of us understand that is a part of that turn up. Like, I'm going to go crazy with it. It's going to be super extra. It's going to be wild. And it came out of their own traumatic experience too. So in that way too, like, you're attacking our nephews, our cousins, our, and other Black designers, period, right? Case says, I did take it personal. The First Lady insulted African American women in general, like we're less than, have no right seeking out our origins. Absolutely. And in this country too, a lot of, and maybe probably all around the world, people get asked, like, or told to go back to where you come from. And you're like, what? We've been here since, like, forever. And who are you to tell us that, right? And then when we go back to where we come from, literally based on this genetic information, we get told, it felt like to me that we were being told, what you coming to Africa for? Why you coming here, right? And some people think that lots of countries in Africa owe Black Americans reparations. I don't know, but that is a thought that's out there. Let's see. That we have no right seeking out our origins. Yeah, that one just went up. The First Lady was correct in calling out Meghan's terrible behavior and lack of respect for the Nigerians and their culture. Stop making it about black versus white. I don't know where I said black versus white, so I'm just going to say no. This is my podcast. I mean, this is our podcast, and we all get a voice, including me, to say what we think. Right now, your voice is in the chat. and I got here in this country because of black versus white, if you will. That's how I got here. So don't tell me I don't get to speak on it. Don't tell me that my family's blood is in the soil. Don't tell me that I don't get to speak on it. No. Where's Marshar? That's a joke. Stop. I get so tired of people telling me, that my family's blood, we literally came here in the belly of ships that were designed to hold us for months and months at a time, where they took pliers and opened our mouths and force fed us gruel to make us stay alive, put paint on our bodies to make us look like that we were not infected and wounded, literally, allegedly, would cut our babies out of our bellies when we got here to tell us to be afraid, because this is what they would do if they do this to a pregnant woman. What else? Not insulting Meghan. She was using as an example of black Americans not knowing our culture, not the way Meghan was dressed. But Meghan's culture is black American culture. Meghan has, her body, her bones have been in this country, her DNA, probably for 500 years. She's going home to Nigeria to discover, in my mind, her African roots. You don't get there in a day. Let's see, she's not, but just showing her appreciation for the culture. Okay, I'm going to try to take a breath. Okay, hi. This morning I had a conversation with my Nigerian friend living here in the U.S., and she told me that First Lady was jealous and probably doing the bidding. That's the same thing my Igbo neighbor told me. I really don't know why so many people are attacked. If this feels like an attack, okay, I'm going to read the comment. I really don't know why so many people are attacking the First Lady of Nigeria, because she did no harm. I bet Meghan is not upset about the comments. So let's put the comments on the... in my opinion, I think she was foolish to compare African culture with American culture. If those women she was addressing couldn't look after their daughter's fashion when it's on them. Please do a research on Bola Tinubu's I'm gonna put those, because I want the discourse to be fair, and I want all voices to be heard. And I am, I'm a human being too. So let's see. First Lady's comments are back here. All right, so you guys can see them. I'm going to try and bring them up on my PowerPoint because the print is so tiny on that screen. You won't see mine. So, the First Lady's words. All right, so I'm going to read them. They keep forgetting that Nigeria, we are beautiful. You can see what they showcase on the stage. I said we are fashionable. We see what's going on. Okay, I don't see much in there to nitpick about, right? We are not having the Met Gala. And everyone, the nakedness is just everywhere, and the men are well clothed. The Met Gala, we understand that that's specifically an American, and like I said, it's a Black American invention based on those things that we just talked about. So we have to do something. Okay, who are we talking about? So we have to do something. If you say it's about the girls, right? But you're talking, if it's about the Nigerian, the girls, the Yoruba girls, if you will, then why are you talking about the Met Gala? So we have to do something. Tell them we don't accept nakedness in our culture. That is not beautiful. It is not beautiful at all. I would say that nakedness is, in my mind, it's beautiful, right? But that's just me. And they're all beautiful girls. They should be confident in who they are. They do not. And here's where it really, for me, turns up on the Black Americanness, if you will. They do not want to mimic and try to emulate film stars from America. They don't know where they come from. So she's specifically saying they, othering, right? She's talking about America and film stars, saying they don't know where they come from. We do. We've been here for 500 years. We blended our Black cultures from around West Africa for the most part and created so much beauty. I get so tired of, but we understand, like, okay, y'all can say that, and we understand we have culture. And we see our culture translated all around the world, right? In every hovel, in every city, you see Black American culture, you hear lingo, you see inventions, you see all this stuff. So that's like, whatever. But that line again, they do not want to mimic and try to emulate film stars from America. They don't know where they come from. Why did Meghan come here looking for Africa? That's something we have to take home with. We know who we are. Don't lose who you are. All right, so I'm going to go back to comments because I couldn't see the comments. Guys, let's see. What are you guys saying? I'm going to take a breath. Okay. So what was Meghan's behavior? She wasn't disrespectful to anyone, says Jackie. In my opinion, I think she was foolish to compare. Okay, I think I read that. With if those women she was addressing couldn't look after their daughters. Yep. Please do a research on both. Oh, yeah, I saw that. Okay. So no new comments, guys. Let's see. Is that it? I see something, but it's not come up high enough for me to read it. And so if we have, do we have a troll in the chat, guys? If we do, let me know who the troll is, and I will take care of it. So from those words, what was that all about then, if not that? Do you guys, let's see, I'm sorry. Do you guys, where did that go? Donna Black said, Mary Mann, the First Lady is right about the Met Gala, a hot mess, but that's my opinion. Okay. So, did you guys see the pictures of the First Lady's daughter's nakedness? I did not. First Lady should focus on her daughter, not me or my children, because I know where I come from, says Gracie. Cheryl, let's see, Lydia says, Cheryl Miles, personal attacks on the host will not be tolerated. Oh, they're attacking me. Oh, I wish I would have seen it. Did I see it? Kendrick's song. Here we go back to that. Yeah. Thank you, Lydia Washington. We are family. We are family, right? And one thing I want to say, Princess Meghan, she didn't want to Africa looking for Africa. She was invited with husband. Yes. She was invited. And do you say that to other people when they come to Africa and tell them? I've seen trophies of lions. If the black lion of Ethiopia was a real thing, it is no more because of all the trophies that were hanging on walls in places, like literal trophies of animals' heads. Do we ask those same questions of other people? And for a lot of diasporans, I think it feels personal. It's like, okay, what y'all coming here for? Really? And do you have that same energy? Does the First Lady... Is there evidence that the First Lady had that same energy for other people? Right? And, we're one people, and there are differences. Nobody wanted to be taken from West Africa. Nobody wanted to be taken, thinking we were going to be food. And we were food. A different kind of... And you know what? I think I've told you guys about a book called The Delectable Negro. We were literal food, allegedly, for people. Our bones are in Yale and Harvard, and, their videos, I think it was Princeton. Was it Princeton? I don't want to say incorrectly. But there was a professor of these kids. She was a professor of kids. There was a bombing in Philly about in the late 70s of these black people who formed a community, this Africa community. They call themselves the Africa community. They bombed them and killed their kids. And this lady had bones that she had acquired from the police department. And the lady took them out on YouTube, allegedly, and was sniffing the bones, talking about how recent they were. And come to find out they were children's bones who were killed in a bombing in this country, on this soil. And so, you can't erase black people from Africa. And, we are all humans. We're going to feel a kind of way around this stuff. Right? Princess Meghan, she didn't want to... Oh, yeah. Thanks. Yes, Joyce Anderson, the reason I said she should not pelt stones. Joyce Anderson, we will be respectful of our... Thank you. We will be respectful of our... Am I magnificent? Thank you for saying that. Yay. That's a win. Why only film stars from America? Yeah. And why not Nollywood? Like, we've seen, I watch Nollywood movies. I like... And you know what, guys? And let me just say this. And it's been a minute, but I know Fela Kuti and how he was dancing on them stage with his music. Do y'all know about... I know y'all know about Fela Kuti. And how did he dance? And who was Fela Kuti hanging out with? And why was he a revolutionary? He saw us all as the same. Is that why he was in his nakedness doing his doing his shows? It's okay, Lydia says, not to agree, but we must respect our host and each other. Yes, please disagree. Please say what you want to say in this space. And me amplifying mine is just letting you know how some people are feeling. You can amplify yours and the feelings of others by expressing that too. And the way we can express that is in love, right? Thank you, Lydia. Prince Harry and Princess Meghan were invited by the Chief of Defense. Didn't the Nigerian First Lady know that before basically asking the audience to think, why did Meghan come looking for ... And is that an insult to people who have the weapons? That this is how you treat our guests? Right? She is loved. She is, right? Do we wonder why Princess Meghan's name was mentioned, not her husband? Because my First Lady was full of jealousy and hate. That's a human feeling. Like, what about me? Me too. Like, I want to be seen. And now, if that is the case, now you are being seen and you are having an effect on the world. You're having an effect on diasporans and Nigerians are dispersed too throughout the world. Like Nigerian diasporans and diasporans from all of these countries are being affected. Like Marcus Garvey had a Back to Africa campaign that Malcolm X's father, he was a pastor, a preacher, and was working with Garvey. I have people in my family who were Garveyites. People in this country went to Liberia. We know about all those wars and the Black Americans who left, and a lot of us Mississippi and other places to go back, and how we made a mess over there, right? And how though, there was still some success even in that whole mess. But there is a longing for a homeland. We don't call Africa the motherland for nothing, right? We have not severed. We have a challenging, most diasporans, relationship with our motherland, our homeland. That's why we call it the motherland. And when these things happen, it feels like confirmation bias. And I know we say that, confirmation bias in this space, right? Fella was a... Thank you, Lady Rose. Fella was a Yoruba. And, Jay-Z did a whole... he won a Tony for his production of Fela. So, we love each other. And we want to be able to go home. Don't we get enough trauma? All of us. I don't care where you're from. You get this trauma when you show up in your skin, right? The First Lady was displaying her own intelligence, nakedness, by focusing on Meghan's dress code instead of the Invictus Games and the injured soldiers and their families. Okay. Sharon says, I'm vacuuming and listening. Yes. Gracie says, nakedness culture in Nigeria has been going on since before Princess Meghan's visit. Why is she in her feelings? Isn't that the truth? We learned, like, in our origins, we could walk around like Eve in, in West Africa, and it wasn't like seen as, oh, it's time for us to, engage in procreation, right? That's a person's body. That's their body that they're walking around with. And it's comfortable to walk around this way. And you don't have fear of being injured or hurt. You don't have to be clothed all, like you can exist in this space. And we are not savages. We don't see each other that way right now. Like, she's working, she's doing this. He's working, he's doing that. Like, we're not talking about BBL Drizzy and all this stuff. Like, right? So it is. And people try and translate that to people around the world, that nakedness. Like, you see me when you see me in my nakedness. You see me as I am, as God made me, as the universe made me. And if I'm comfortable enough to walk around that way, if my culture says that this is okay and you will not be savaged, what you talking about? She's not speaking it for all. I don't know if I missed something, maybe. Let's be kind to each other. I can kind of see. She's not speaking it for all Africans continent. The UK press trashed Nigeria. They did. And the First Lady didn't say one word. Nigeria was compared to, yes, Nazis and most dangerous country, 12th, yep. But she wanted to talk about the Met Gala and clothes. Can we not talk about the First Lady? We're giving her the notoriety she was trying to get speaking Meghan's name. We cannot. It would interrupt the whole thing, my whole plan for the day, this whole plan of like us getting to the root, this whole thing. And are any of us like, can I get an I am Meghan Markle in the chat? Can you guys give me an I am Meghan Markle in the chat? Ingrid says, please do not let your heart be troubled. Meghan is blessed and favored. She keeps praying and supporting dear friend. There are tribes in Africa in which they still don't wear clothes today. And you know what? In some households, we have tribes where we don't walk around with a lot of clothes on too. We don't have to worry about being savaged, right? Let's see. It's part of our... Yes, I was saying that too. It's part of our culture as Plusso women to expose our shoulders in summer, and we're proud of it. Is that an offense? You guys, beautiful shoulders, right? And what did Barack Obama say about Michelle when they were coming for her? My wife has a right to bear arms, right? So is that an offense? And I think I talked to you guys about my friend from Swaziland, who was a princess from Swaziland, and she had her whole, breast exposed in a photograph, huge, like 3x2 photograph on the wall, like just looking beautiful. So, yes, thank you. I see the I am Meghan Markle's. Thank you. Guys, it does my heart so much good because, like, are we feeling any more unified by having this conversation? I am trying to flesh, out this thing, and I want us to get to a kind of healing, right? Cherry Hill says, thank you, Quinny. Hi, everyone. Does the First Lady know the Met Gala is for charity? and the Met Gala, and when you look at the root of the thing, and you look at the culture of the thing, and I'm going to go back to that Baps. I don't know how many people have seen that silly movie, Baps, this one. When you look at it, there's trauma that created that. You can't dress like that. For kids who are queer kids, and what, I'm just going to say it. For kids who are queer kids who've had a lot of trauma around that and are walking in that thing, they decided they're going to turn up however they're going to turn up. They're going to go and do the most And so that's an expression like when people speak black English and they're like, I ain't code switching no more. I don't care, call me what you. When I hear Ryan Coogler speak, remember some of the talking points of the OS where she's an actress, divorcee, American, African American, straight out of yes, there was an allusion in the First Lady's speech. Yes, yes. And then do you remember the Beyonce song that she did about that around that time when she was making a movie, the music for Serena Williams and Venus is a movie? And she talked about, she sang how beautifully, had tennis ball colored dresses about Compton. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Like, we are reclaiming our time. We are reclaiming ourselves. We're reclaiming our culture. We will not be shamed about any part of it. Because out of all this trauma and out of all that we were given by our ancestors in West Africa, for the most part, we brought all that with us, even as we are in chains, and we remembered. Yep, we ate that watermelon because it was something our mothers and their mothers and grandmothers fed to them, and it is beautiful and it is wonderful. And also, we control the watermelon market in this country until it was taken away. Princess was always appropriately dressed. Sorry, I didn't see that whole thing. She will not talk about British media because she doesn't want to ruffle feathers. She added Princess Meghan to her speech to appease her colonial master. That is my opinion, and you standing on that. I was raised in the old school black church in America, and we didn't have nakedness either, so that First Lady needs to know what she's talking about. So that, yeah, I was wrong that she used Meghan's name. The First Lady may have been upset because she wasn't invited to be I think, remember the gifts? We know what Warri got. We know what those kings got. And then there were gifts, right? Like, you've not been given a gift. How come I wasn't? Like, did you feel excluded? I mean, that's a possibility, and that's what my neighbor said. So the First Lady may have been upset because she wasn't invited to be a part of the women's conference. That conference had the cream of society, business, film industry in attendance. And she did bring up the film industry. I am Meghan Markle, beautiful, independent, humble, and helping the less fortunate people in my... Yes, she is. She absolutely is. And bringing the squad together. So I think we are going to have to understand that. And we do. I'm not saying that. I think that the First Lady is also a senator, right? She's a senator. And so she understands... I mean, does she understand... Are we giving her too much credit to say that she understands her words and their impact? When you use someone's name and it's adjacent to, something else that's negative, there is an association there because you put it there. If I'm talking about, she said nakedness, if I'm talking about crime and I put, someone's name there, then I'm associating that person just because of the proximity of their name to that trauma or to that crime, right? So whatever we do when we decide to put something next to it, it's adjacent, then that's just in the way of existing. It is an association, right? Cynthia says, I think we understand the English language proficiently to know what the First Lady was doing. Lola Love says, hi. Think she was jealous of Meghan. Exactly. I am Meghan Markle. I am inspired by Meghan Markle. Yes, I'm feeling so much like just having some clarity that, first of all, I ain't completely crazy, right? That's not a nice word. I'm not completely out there. Like, that I saw what I saw. I wasn't the only person who saw it. And other people, other squatties, saw what they saw. And if they feel like they're defending their culture, they're defending the First Lady that they love, or even if they don't like her or love her, that it feels like a personal attack on her when we say our words, all of that is valid, right? All of that is valid. And how do we come together and say, I see you. I see you there, if you happen to be Yoruba. My goddaughter is Yoruba. No, she's not. I lied. She's Hausa. Sorry. No, she's Hausa. Don't want to do that. Anyway, but she's Hausa, so she might have been taking this... If the First Lady was Hausa, she might have taken it the same way, right? So, Anyway, so let's see what else we got. Really really think she did it on purpose, says Gwen. Okay. Thank you for the hearts. That feels good. The First Lady and her husband were the government, and the government did not invite Harry and Meghan to Nigeria. This was not an official royal tour. It wasn't. Until they crowned her the crown princess, right? Now everywhere she goes, it's going to be a royal tour. What do you guys think? Like, and I would think that there would be an admonishment by... Somebody should be saying something to, on the king's behalf. I'm sure it has been. Like, this is what you wanted. You wanted the dialogue to be this. You wanted to hurt the diasporans. You wanted to hurt our people who are from Nigeria recently also in this whole discussion, and have them, some people feeling defensive and put upon because you want to, whatever it is. And even if you didn't have an agenda, this is the result. The result is that people are in their feelings even more than feeling. Like, we all up in our feelings. And, you feel what I'm saying? You feel what I'm saying? As my nephew would say, you feel what I'm saying? And, because it is, if you feel what I'm saying, put some hearts in the chat. If you feel this thing that we are in our feelings. Nobody feels what I'm saying. Oh, no. But if you feel what I'm saying, we are and have been in our feelings around this whole discussion. And for me, I think I'm getting better. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling more unified as a result of having these conversations. Okay, so I see... Gwen says, only take one fool to mess up, and she was foolish. Thank you, Lydia Washington, for the hearts. Thank you, Gwen Daniel. If I'm out here on an island, that's cool too. I can, I can be Kendrick, if I need to. So you guys get this whole Kendrick thing all the time. Thank you, Emma, for the hearts. Yeah, because now I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling a bit like it only takes one person to mess up, and she messed up. And was it intentional? Thank you so much. Foxy Brown one. Was Meghan used as a pawn to get at someone? God, I hope not. Sharon, thank you for the hearts. Gloria, Gwen. Yes, because it does feel that way. It feels... And I feel like we're reclaiming our time. I feel like that this thing was necessary, and now we can go out and, I'm going to put that slide back up if I can. Which one is it? These trolls. Is it that one? Turn this one off. Nope, not that one. I think it's this one. Okay. I was looking for these trolls ain't loyal. Is it this one? Turn this one off. Turn this one off. Yep, it's that one. Okay, so transition. I'm teaching you guys all about software. Yeah, these trolls ain't loyal. These trolls ain't loyal. Let's see. The First Lady disrespected the four kings as a woman of Nigeria is of lower status to a man. She disrespected the kings big time. And how does it go away? Do they, like I said about the guy who was similar to Tisa, it's been hard. I haven't been able to forgive him for all the things he said about Black Americans. And so I don't watch him. And I know my mom, she had more of a capacity to do that. Does the First Lady get the same kind of forgiveness from most people is a question. And how long does it take for her to get to that point? When the lights show up, it exposes our dark side. Only light could drive out darkness. What if we are dressed from head to toe illustriously, but our character is dark and unsightly? Character matters. Okay. The Nigerian First Lady may have referenced Meghan's visit to highlight Nigeria's diverse culture as a significant draw for international visitors, understanding it as a key takeaway point. Yeah, she may have. And I think if the words that she used, if she now understands that they caused great harm, then I think she should say something. Like, and I understand that there is a perspective that says that she wouldn't, because she's above that. I think, I don't come from a culture that believes that I'm above, hurting people's feelings, and that when I commit a kind of hurt, then I need to rectify that thing if I want to have a good relationship with them. Or like if you bump someone's foot, or if you injure them, like, here's some Neosporin, here's a bandage, right? And so, like, there was an injury, and possibly if you're making the Princess Duchess feel uncomfortable, is she going to believe she's going to get more of the same, and then say, it's not worth it to go to Nigeria to do these things? Or if we say the games will be held in Nigeria, I don't feel like fighting the same battles as I have to fight on a daily. Meghan's visit to highlight significant draw. I think I read that one as a key takeaway point. Right. This may be the reason why the First Lady wasn't invited to be part of the Women's Leadership. Ooh, okay. The Women's Leadership Conference. It would have caused even more problems if they had engaged with the head of state. Okay. Thank you, Lola. Joy says, I'm ready to move away from the First Lady. I think that we have covered the basis of this subject. Okay. Do you know that there are some Nigerian tribal dances that dance bare-breasted? There are people that do, all over the world. I respect that others may still need to speak on their mind. So people are like, are you guys feeling okay with where the conversation is? I heard 2 in a row of people saying they're ready to move beyond this conversation of around the First Lady. Let's see. When she used Meghan's name, it was wrong. She needs to worry about her daughter. Okay. Princess Meghan, all of us, is so perfect and beautiful. She absolutely is. How can, Joanne says, how can she be above that when she created such havoc? When you're wrong and hurt someone unintentionally, you make amends. Is that Cookie Monster? One of my best friends calls me Cookie Monster. Love that, Joanne. My mother came from the Yoruba tribe, Lady Rose says. And I'm telling you, then that's not how my family thinks of other cultures. Okay. Yeah, because I know that I am, like, for me, I'm moving into a place of healing now. And this is likely going to be, unless something else comes up, the last time I engage in a conversation about this, because I really want to get to the Tatler program that I have planned for the next time around that, that art image of the Princess of Wales, right? And discuss how the artist's painting is being interpreted in a parallel way to King Charles's painting. Meghan was not in Nigeria to find her roots. She was there on Invictus business and their charity work with her husband. It was the Nigerians who wanted to celebrate her and Nigerians. And I remember, like, even when she came out and said there was so much excitement and so much love, right? Around that, like, and it felt like we were a tribe, if you will, like, the people who love Meghan, and that necessarily makes me feel like I am Nigerian in part because you love somebody I love, right? I'm back. Okay, Martin. Fatima, yes, I am Meghan Markle. Yes, say that. Let's see, we can't keep burying our heads in the sand. When you're wrong, you're wrong. And does it go against Yoruba culture, if anybody in here is Yoruba, to say words about the First Lady? Is that, because I know in Thailand you can't speak against the king, and so before the king was crowned, people said lots and lots of things about the king of Thailand, and now you just cannot. You can't say anything negative in lots of cultures around their leaders. Is that the case in culture around the First Lady? The scripture says that a man speaks out of the abundance of his heart. Don't know the First Lady's thoughts, but maybe she was trying to hide it. That's why she spoke with ambiguity. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, I like that. Lola says, I found out that I'm 51% Yoruba from my deep dive DNA test. So you're related to the First Lady, Lola Love. I got jokes. You probably are in some small part. Like, I mean, we all are actually, but too soon? Yes, we should move on, but I hope that the First Lady does not mention Meghan again unless she knows the right words to use. You can't try to explain it away a second time. I agree. I think that if it happens, what do they say? Shame on me for the first time in this. No, I'm sorry. If it happens the first time, shame on you, and if it happens the second time, shame on me for believing you. Like, no, I didn't believe in that. Let's see. Gracie says, I guess we can forgive her because English is her second language. Okay. Do we forgive? Do we forget? We forgive. We're working on all of that, right? My mother forgives. I'm working on it. And it's still, going to be there for a while, right? It's still going to be there for a while until we feel like we're completely healed or mostly healed. It won't come to front of mind if we see, things that look like, and probably we won't even, because she hasn't been on my radar in the same way that when I'm in South Africa, I don't see a lot of reporting on the United States either. So she's not centered in the discussions, in any discussion that I've ever had, other than these this week. Let's see. So Quinny says, I wonder how Harry and Meghan are feeling about this. Yeah, one does, right? Hopefully Meghan is feeling protected. Hopefully she's feeling protected. Lady Rose says, I asked my aunt about that speech. She said the First Lady was wrong to say what she said about American culture. Okay. Yeah, that's why I called mine. I'm like, she called me and I'm like, I was planning on it, but I'm like, okay, let me ask you this thing. And she was like, yeah, this is wrong, blah, blah, blah. And, she attributed to tribal differences in oil and jealousy too. So apparently Lola and Lady Rose are cousins. We're all related. The First Lady messed up. She's not a leader but a puppet. Wonder what was said to the First Lady by the people. Okay, says Gwen. Bail Bond says, yes, we should forgive, but the First Lady should forgive herself first and have compassion. Yeah, she needs to forgive herself and have compassion for self-compassion, or compassion for the Duchess, or maybe both. Because when we mess up, for a lot of us, when we make mistakes, it sucks and it hurts us too. And we want to figure out a way to remedy whatever we messed up on, right? And so in that process of figuring out how to remedy it, then we have to experience the hurt that we caused at the same time. So if she's feeling hurt based on these conversations that she's hearing, I don't know what her husband would have said to her. I don't know if it was kind of big ups to you, or if it was man, you really messed up. You got the whole world, at least this intersectional world, that people who intersect around Duchess Meghan and in the diaspora and outside of it just feeling a certain way. And at the same time, you really big up, or could it be wow, you really blew up on social media, your name is trending top 10, and you're shining a light on Nigeria. Could it be one, the other, both? I don't know. Could he potentially be happy by the attention that's being brought, and for her getting so much attention on the world stage now at this point? Because we see that in these troll spaces, if you will, how these spaces get so much light shined on them because they bring negative attention to the Duchess, which is on the agenda, it seems, allegedly, of the UK media. Quinny says, I know Gwen, but they do have feelings. I really care about there will be. Harry, and then Joy says, Harry and Meghan will be fine. They have been dealing with people like the First Lady for the past 6.5 years. But I know they would have expected better from her. And you know what? When it comes from people that you, like, the First Lady, in a lot of people's minds, is not, I mean, she is Nigerian. Meghan's Nigerian. I don't know that Meghan was making all these associations between, oh, she's not Hausa, she's not Yoruba, she's not Igbo. Like, I'm not this, I'm not that. Meghan likely has a diverse mix in her DNA of people from Nigeria from different tribes, right? And so not even having those thoughts, like, does it feel like Nigeria is also attacking me in that moment? I know Meghan has discernment. But the head and the body, like the head, the thinking brain does not always have the same capacity when we are feeling dysregulated as our emotional brain. We don't necessarily have the ability when we're feeling like heightened emotions to separate our rational thoughts from our emotions. And then we're in our feelings in those moments. And we're not necessarily thinking, right? Let's see. Belbon says, compassion for the world. Lola Love says, ha, Professor, you're hilarious. I got 18.7% Bantu, 27.3% Khoisan, and from South Africa. Okay. Are you related to Sarah Bartman? Lola? Quinny says, absolutely agree, but Harry and Meghan has so much dignity. Foxy says, it's unfortunate that the First Lady's daughter caught strays because of her comments. I can imagine her comments. Yeah, that's so sad. Like, Mom, like, for real? I gotta turn my comments off because you out here wilding? Yeah, like, Ma, you out here wilding and you messing up. You messing up for, like, you messing up for the culture. And you need to, do you think her daughter might have said, Ma, why you out here wilding? And now my comment section is blowing up because of that thing, right? Let's see. Lady Rose says, the king told her to say something about Meghan, and she did. She had that written on paper? Oh, come on. Oh, I thought it was an extemporaneous. What? Okay, I need a mind-blown emoji. It's what's in my head right now. Like, what? Was it? I didn't even pay attention. Oh, no. I'm sorry, guys. I'm feeling like I'm in camp gear right now because, like, Halle Berry and Babs, you can see both of them and the Duchess on the screen, like, mind blown. So Lady Rose thinks that the king told her to say something about her. Wow. If that's true, that's a whole mess. Bail Bond says, compassion for the world, because Black Americans need love, and that's what Nigerians as a whole gave to Harry and Meghan. That is so true. That is so foundationally true. That trip was a success from top to bottom, right? And then weeks later, you come out bringing the, stuff that the UK media, because then they were pining. We have a hole in our heart, allegedly, the size of a Harry, not Harry and Meghan. We have a hole in our heart. And now, yeah. And if you are, and I can speak for myself, if you're a Black American and someone that you believe is also related to you says something worse, like whatever the UK media does to Meghan, for me it would hurt a lot worse coming from someone who I am claiming a kinship with. So potentially she could have hurt worse, not because it was the UK media, because she's used to that, but just like when I saw those people, I think there were 3 or 4 of them on a stage talking about the Duchess on some kind of fake talk show, it looked like. I was like, wow, y'all out here wilding like Clarence Thomas and, just out here saying things, speaking against this Black woman. And that was like, well, does that hurt worse? I don't know. Lady Rose, glad to meet you, cousin. The remainder of my deep dive DNA is more from Morocco. How the heck did my DNA get so spread out all over Africa? I've heard about those kinds of connections, right? Gwen says, she should deal with her daughter. Meghan is not her daughter. Yeah, Meghan is like a 40-plus-year-old woman. Do you really go out here and chastise 40-something-year-old women? Like, she is an auntie in her own right. Meghan is. You know, I hear LeBron's wife, Savannah, being called auntie. She ain't crazy about it. But when you think about the fact that he plays with 20-year-olds and he's about 40, you know, almost. He's, I think, 37, 38. No, 39, I think, this year. He's 39. So she's an auntie in her own right. Like, if the First Lady wanted to invite the women, be invited to the women's conference, I'm sure all she had to do was make a phone call and she would have been invited. That's potential, Joyce. And they may have known her. She may have a reputation. I don't know. Do you think she has a reputation? She may have been able to get an invite. And if she has this reputation for doing this, they may not have wanted her to be there because they didn't want to have to deal with that. Joyce says, the king could have gotten a call from the palace to do something because the tour went so very well. And they needed to have something negative to talk about. Yeah. And that's why we're here, right? And that's why we can't have diaspora wars. And that's why, in my mind, I needed to have clarity on what in the heck is really going on in this space around the Duchess and this person. And I'm interpreting it, especially like, why is like those last few lines? I'm like, wait, what? Like, yeah. So it felt to me kind of like a Clarence Thomas slight. And if it is a kind of Clarence Thomas slight, then I can say like, well, you know, like, for, you know, allegedly for most Black Americans, we ain't on him like that because we understand that Clarence Thomas has been dangerous. What he's doing in the Supreme Court with legislation, they're talking like Sotomayor was, I read an article that she was crying about the decisions that we haven't seen come out yet that are coming. And most of them are going to be anti-Black, anti-minority, I'm assuming, very well, and they need to have something negative. I think I read that. Meghan has been betrayed by Thomas et al., so she's good. If the First Lady, Jackie says, if the First Lady is speaking about dress, what would she say if the Invictus Games held in Nigeria, the women athletes will wear shorts and their supporters will be dressed in different outfits? That's true. They're not going to be covered with, you know, they're not going to be covered. That is, they will definitely be wearing athletic attire. Let's see. You'll be surprised how mixed our DNA are because our ancestors traveled, moved from places. That's right. What? Oh, Gwen says Joyce V. exactly, always a solo. Marcia says she could not be invited. The visit was not sanctioned by the embassy or the palace. Two separate entities. Do we mix? Yeah. That's interesting. I believe so also. Chucky called. Notice they all same thing phrases. Remember when Meghan launched her brand, all three derangers kept saying, don't you think it's odd? Lady Rose says, I saw that on Twitter, what Sotomayor said about the verdicts making her cry. Yeah, I'm really worried. I'm really, really worried about what is going to happen in this country in the next, you know, the affirmative action is dead. It was never really a thing. I guess it was a thing for 10 years, which is nothing when you consider that we were chattel for, you know, about 300, and then we had to be under Jim Crow for about another 100 plus. Almost since we got here. Like, if you say Black Americans achieved a kind of freedom after the Civil Rights Act in 64, 65 passed, then, like, we ain't been free long. Like, 50 years, if you will. And even those changes don't take place quickly, right? It takes time. So, let's see. Chucky and William need to find their wife, daughter. Yeah, I'm sure Sotomayor got lots of innocent Black people in prison because Potentially. But like these decisions that are coming down the pike, and we will see them, they normally come out like first week of June, I think, the Supreme Court decisions. So we will see what what they're like, all this work that they're doing, and they have Thurgood Marshall's seat, which is, you know, it's a travesty to me in my mind, because Thurgood Marshall did so much good in that space. And even Thomas is writing that he's against Brown versus Board of Education. So he's, in a way, allegedly anti Brown versus Board of Education. So is he a segregationist? Can we interpret it that? And if that's the case, and if we go back and Brown versus Board of Education is decided differently, and we don't have separate, I mean, we have to have separate but equal spaces, right? Because if, certain rulings get changed, other rulings can be changed too. These things are not, they're not as ingrained in the law as we think, because we've seen decisions come in and change precedent that was like 50 years old. So if he says that Brown v. Board of Education was decided incorrectly, and they've got 6, the conservatives, if you will, have 6 seats on the Supreme Court, then they can go back and say that this was wrongly decided. Can they also, so then we have segregation again in this country? Does that include in government spaces? How do we navigate the world if that changes? How do we navigate and move in the United States if a Supreme Court says that we have to have separate but equal spaces? Or maybe not even separate but equal, but it's okay to have separate spaces. It's okay to say, they've already said, I don't have to bake a cake for you if I don't agree with your lifestyle, or if I don't agree with, can they change that and also say, and your race? I think that's potential, right? I think there's a potential for that happening. And so if in June these things happen, then what do we do in this country if we go back to a kind of segregated society? And yeah, so it's just been a lot, like with Sotomayor crying, and it's, when you see a Supreme Court justice, they don't normally discuss any of these things. It's usually very secret until things come out. But I think she's like, well, let me prepare you as much as I can, right? Well, if Nigeria gets the Invictus Games bid for 2029, First Lady may not be First Lady. Do we think that it's likely now? Do we think that Meghan is going to feel safe enough to go back there with her as First Lady? Whatever the intention was, we have what happened as a result of that speech, right? And that's what we're here today discussing. Do you think that they feel safe enough to say, okay, let's have the games here? What would they need? What would they need to be assured that this thing, Meghan's not going to be attacked again, or people aren't going to feel like Meghan's being attacked in the media by the First Lady? What assurances do they get in order to say, to greenlight the games? Because it's been in Prince Harry's homeland before. They just had the 10th anniversary celebration. It wouldn't be far-fetched to say that why wouldn't it be in the motherland, and where Meghan's DNA originates from? A large portion of that, her black DNA originates from that space. Was it, So, let's see. Maybe the First Lady should ask the young ladies feedback on her speech. Maybe that's a possibility to open up their confidence. Yeah, and Lydia says, good idea, Cynthia. Yeah, maybe the First Lady should ask the young ladies feedback on her speech. It would seem like that, for a lot of people, they test different speeches. I mean, and we have ChatGPT today. So if we want to write a speech, you can write a speech if you get on ChatGPT. So it's not hard. The First Lady, if she doesn't know, I'm sure she does. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. Get on ChatGPT and run it through there and say, can you make this be for this audience and not offend people? Like, you can do that. Or, is this offensive? You can run it through AI and find out if this is 10% offensive, this is 90% offensive, right? So
Let's see. The First Lady's speech on the young people's dress style strikes as judgy, preachy, and behind the times. Yeah, and so like in some spaces, when you visit different countries, sometimes the rules are we don't wear shorts here, and oh, you Americans are violating these things. Is that a thing though? Do people like wear shorts on a regular? I don't think she was wearing shorts, but do people wear shorts on a regular over, in Nigeria in that way? I know at the festivals, I'm sure that the kids do. Let's see. H&M are safe anytime in Nigeria because the military will secure them. That is true. We saw how the military moved with respect to Harry and Meghan. They had them from the beginning. It was like, dang, like, that was wild. I was just like, for someone to think that they were going to bring harm to Harry and Meghan in that space, it would definitely have been at their own peril, assuming that there were literal objects inside of their pew-pews that would fire, right? They were not messing around with, and then that whole thing that was being reported, they're the 12th most dangerous. Like, what? I saw, who was that? Oh my goodness. It was a Black American dude. Oh my gosh. It wasn't Cornell West. It will come. I'm trying to think who it was. Was it Farrakhan? I think it was Farrakhan. Uh-oh. Anyway, I saw Farrakhan talking about, how old Nigeria is and how old the United States is. Like, you want to say that's the 12th most whatever. What's happening in your own country? What percentage of people, the most unprotected women in the United States, Malcolm X said, was the black woman. The most unprotected woman in the United States or in America is the black woman. The most maligned woman, I'm saying, in America, in the world, is the black woman, right? And so Farrakhan was going on to explain that you don't get to say this about Nigeria, if you will. And I'm not 100% sure he was talking about Nigeria, but he may have been. You can't say that. This country is, literally, it's a young country in terms of colonization, right? Let me read this. Foxy says, the fact that First Lady made no mention of the veterans is sad, leads me to believe she doesn't care. Also, don't they have to build the facilities to host the games? Maybe she doesn't want to spend the money. She should have been speaking on, that's, Connie Bomber says, I hope that lady knows how much Meghan's people, there it is. Meghan's people she has hurt. If she has kids, I hope they dress in tiny shorts in Nigeria. And then Joyce says, if they get the bid in Nigeria, Meghan may bring her children and her mother, so there needs to be some talks about any offense speeches coming concerning cultures and the Duke and Duchess while they're, can you imagine, like, wanting to defend your mama, too? Because those kids aren't, in 29, they're not going to be little. They're going to be, like, of a significant, maybe not teenagers quite, but getting there. Archie will be close. He will be, I think, in double digits by then. When was he born? Was it 19? So he may be 10 by then. So he'll be a tween, if you will. And, don't come for my mama. So can you imagine? Like, a little Archie out there trying to defend his mama, like... So that can also be a thing. I'm wondering too, though, what is she thinking at this point now? What is the First Lady, what are her thoughts on her effect on Meghan and others? Like, does she recognize the effect that she's had on, and she has to have, right? But if you're saying that speech was written down, and you believe that it was sanctioned, then that's like a good job then, if that's the case. And if we are all, like, not all, if many of us are misreading it, should we be feeling kind of bad about it right now? if none of this was her, like, intended by her. I understand the effect. And if we're all misreading it and she's in a puddle, like crying and crying about the offense she's caused, or like to some, what do we do about that if we find that out? The games will be held in Nigeria someday, but not while the First Lady and her husband are in power. They don't deserve the positive energy the games will bring to Nigeria. We'll have to wait to that revenue from it. Can you imagine First Lady Dr. Biden gave a speech criticizing Nigerian culture? Oh, no. 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 Or Michelle. No. No, but you would think as a senator that you would have more, even if you're speaking in a second language. Like for me, Spanish is my second language, and I'm very careful when I'm speaking not to. In reading and writing, all of those things, you want to make sure you're not offending. But if you're comfortable enough to do, I don't know. Like, was she taught in school English? What is her grasp with Duolingo, with respect to Duolingo? Is she like 99% fluent in English? If she is, she knew what she was doing. But we can also, like, what do we do with the possibility that we're, like, some of us are misreading it and she had no ill intentions? Guess what? That same military will turn against her. That's Africa. Don't play much in Africa. You'll get yourself trying to get on a plane, and you won't be able to leave Abuja airport. It's happened, in lots of places when people leave power, that they don't leave power in a certain way, and it's not necessarily, allegedly it's not safe in lots and lots of for lots and lots of people, if you will, when their time's up with respect to power, right? Let's see. Success Emmanuel says, as a Nigerian, our First Lady cannot speak for us. Okay. Does it matter the tribe? Or does it matter the person? Like, Michelle's from Chicago. We don't necessarily have the same kind of tribal influence. A lot of us move pretty much in unison. I'm starting to see some divides in this country, though, with FBAs, foundational Black Americans. If you don't know what that term means, like, they are starting to it's a new term. They're starting to make waves saying that people who immigrate here don't treat Black Americans well, and so I think I saw like something on not a census, but a census kind of document around like being a native Black American, which was really weird. I'm like, oh, we've never moved like that. But there's a kind of strange tribal movement that for the first time in my lifetime I'm starting to see around what they're calling foundational Black Americans. And I'm like, well, that's really like interesting. Let's see, we did not. Okay. The First Lady is an educated woman. I believe so. She had to know what she was doing. We did not misread what she said. Okay, Joyce. Stop making excuses for the Nigerian Stop making excuses for the Nigerian puppet of her colonizing masters. Ooh. Okay. Are we? Yeah. So it was intentional, Mary believes. It sounds like. And then Bail Bond says, the four kings meeting Meghan is huge. The kings do not meet women, and four at that. Meghan's elevation is so high, even cultural, higher than the First Lady. That's what I was sensing too. And that's where I was thinking, like, and again, my neighbor can only confirm a bit of it. She can't confirm it for the country. But there is a thing with statistics. If statistically, in a random selection, so she was randomly selected by me, like, as the only Nigerian person that's adjacent to me. And she said that she thinks it's jealousy of Meghan because of what the king, because she's like, where are the, from Warri, from this, from that, like, yeah, they don't do that. They don't do that for anybody. And I'm like, okay. So, it's leading me to believe that that's the case. Potentially. I'm listening to you, which made check my report to find out I'm 39.3% Nigerian. I got Igbo, 28% Ghanaian. And you know what? That might make you close to being 100% because who drew those borders, right? Marlene? Yeah, like, who drew those borders? So, wow. So you're Igbo, you're 39, okay, and then Ghanaian too. Wow. This has been a very good discussion. I'm going to have to leave. Okay, Joyce, thank you so much for being here and contributing. Really, really appreciate you. Lady Rose says, look at how poor the people are. The First Lady is talking about clothes instead of talking about getting food on tables, hygiene supplies for children, etc. Yeah, and I think the hygiene part is challenging. When girls are, specifically, especially around feminine products, you know, those cups that we have now in the world that can be literally printed, 3D printed, are significant so that girls can have hygiene products, because lots of girls in lots of countries stay home from school when they're, you know, on their cycle. They just don't go to school because they don't have the feminine hygiene products. Or they use a kind of cloth. And what happens when that thing gets dirty? And you don't want to put bleach on it too much, because then you don't want to put bleach in these spaces, right? So what do we do to help keep our girls, specifically when it comes to hygiene around that time of the month? We want to make sure that they're going to not end up being sick or making themselves sick by trying to take care of that process. And it's pretty scary. It's pretty sad. Let's see. So the consensus to me has been that this conversation was needed, was needed, and that, at least for the people who are speaking out, that the people in the chat who are speaking out have a kind of consensus around that they believe that the First Lady is at least partially culpable, and that the First Lady didn't necessarily knew what she was saying and said it anyway. And I would say that there is a part of the chat that's saying, no, you know, I don't believe that she was completely culpable. Maybe she misspoke. And then maybe there's a part of the chat that is sort of on the fence, not sure, right? And so, I think from this conversation today, I felt better yesterday, but I think from this conversation today, I have more clarity around, and I remember, thanks to you guys, the original intent of the trip. You know, and we have a saying around crabs in a barrel in the Black American community, crabs will try and pull you back in the barrel as they try to climb on top of you to get out. And so it feels a little bit like crabs in a barrel, and you will get that from some people. And I'm completely open to misreading it, right? And Jackie says, let's play devil's advocate. Was it her daughter she wanted to send a message to, saying, look at Meghan, who's not born here? Okay, the white man separate lady says the separatists want to keep us separated. Let's break the barrier and stick together to fight for our race. Okay. I love the hearts. Love the emojis. Marlene says, yes, Lady Rose. Good discussion. Thanks to all who joined. Please be sure to like, share, and support. Oh, thanks, Lydia, for reminding us to do that. Lydia, thank you so much. Foxy says, Meghan has been talking about hygiene products. She absolutely has. And did we not do a campaign? I think it was for India. And for those of you who are old school squaddies with the Sussex Squad podcast, did we not do a campaign to help get feminine products, specifically these cups for girls? I think it was for India at a certain point. Do you guys remember that the Sussex Squad podcast doing that for, one of our events, where we would log on to whatever their site was and spend $10 buying feminine products for these girls, and like raised X amount of dollars for these girls to get hygiene products. I specifically remember, yep. Yeah, thank you, Lydia. I specifically remember it being Tina and Michelle and Tina joining with one of the foundations that Meghan was working with to help girls in India do this kind of work. I mean, so that they could go to school. Because if they can't go to school, you know what it's like when you miss a day? What happens when you miss 4 or 5 days because you're on your cycle, right? If you're missing this time, then, and that's 4 to 5 days a month, right? So, because of, you don't want it on your pants or your skirt or, yeah. And our Duchess has been doing that and we and the squad have to remember our purpose, that these are the kinds of things we do. We were doing it for birthdays and around, like we had this whole campaign with the Sussex Squad podcast around, I think it started with Prince Archie's birthday and maybe it ended with Harry's birthday. And so we'd have these separate campaigns where they would do this and we would just, and then they would keep a tally of how much we were spending on Meghan's projects. And it was really, really empowering. And I think like from all this conversation, I feel like I feel better about the diaspora. I feel like I'm more prepared to go out into these, social media streets and do the work of the warriors that we are, combating these trolls who ain't loyal, right? I feel like I am literally in a better headspace today based on this conversation. Because if I'm honest, and I try to be, sometimes I'm conflicted in my own head, just, but I feel better today than I felt yesterday about the conversation that was happening. And definitely better than the day before that. Because it was a little bit wild out here in these streets. And I'm like, wait a minute. We've got all these squatties from around the world. And we all love the Duchess. How is this a thing? Are we being fooled? I know it can't be. But when you experience a slight, when you experience a trauma, regardless, that's what it can feel like. It can feel like it's the, Meghan against, like everybody. That came from that title of that episode. There's this hip-hop artist called Black Thought. And he has this album song called Thought versus Everybody. And sometimes it feels like Meghan versus everybody, right? But we definitely don't want it to feel like Meghan versus, like, how can she be? She's the crown princess based on these 4 kings, right? Yes, Meghan did a campaign for, yep, okay, let's see, I just thought I read something else. My comments are being skipped. Why? I'm sorry, Marsha, I didn't see them. I'm sorry. They aren't bad, just valid points of topic. Well, I didn't see it, Marsha. I wouldn't skip you. Hi, Connie, everyone. We should be proud. My head was probably turned. I don't know that I can go back up and see it. Can you put it back up there? I didn't even realize you were in the chat, Marshar. But I did say your name today, talking about, how you handle stuff. So, yeah, slight not intended. Meghan's name is very magnetic. Nobody would have known about the First Lady if she had not mentioned Meghan. Professor Z, apologies for correcting you, but Princess Meghan and not Duchess Meghan. Can she be both? Thank you, Mary. Can we help to find a source of reusable feminine product that someone posted on the site? Good idea. Going to Ghana next summer and wanted to take some products. Love the conversation. My first time on. Absolutely. You're absolutely welcome. I'm planning to take books. Like, there are 2, I think, diaspora and libraries from, like, there may be more now in Ghana. I'm scanning for Marshar. Still haven't seen any Marshar comments, guys. I haven't seen any yet. But that's a great idea. Really great idea. See how smart the squad is? Because, there's this guy on MSNBC. His name is Lawrence O'Donnell. And he has bought desks for so many kids in Malawi, right? So that's one thing I make sure I do at least every year. usually around Christmas time when I'm reading Things Fall Apart. He has this whole campaign about putting desks in the classroom, and it's something that most of us around the world who are in this space don't necessarily think about. Like desks, what is that? But kids in classrooms are sitting on the floor. So he's doing that in Malawi specifically, right? Barbara says she's Princess Henry. She's Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Thank you. Foxy says she's been doing this work well before she met Harry. I've been following her since the Suits days. You go. Okay, Professor Z. Maybe it's YouTube. We know they can't handle the truth. Yeah, Marshall. I swear I haven't seen your comments. And definitely miss your voice in this conversation. Let's see. In the USA, however, she's Meghan Markle because the US doesn't have royalty. I think that's partially true. I think that though in Black culture, we all call ourselves kings and queens. Like, and we're just, what's up, queen? We even greet ourselves like that. Or Kang, if you will, like if you're speaking in a kind of dialect of Black American speech. Or Ave, or, even Gullah Geechee, or Louisiana Creole, as they say. Like, there's a version of king, queen, in the words that we say about each other. And you can hear it in, some people call it slang, and I'll just say speech, right? If I was one of those large African country leaders, I would give all African Americans their free parts of land. But unfortunately, we have these colonial mindsets, BSFLs, who's working. And Ghana did a version of that. Ghana, I think, Liberia, people are able to get passports, Black Americans specifically, and I think diasporans, not just Black Americans, in some countries are able to get, and there was a campaign that was trying to get passports for African descended people and Africans to be able to travel kind of almost in the same way as in the US or in Europe, where you can travel with one passport, like a more unified passport. And I think that would be a good thing. And I know a lot of people are going back to Ghana, and some people, I know you have to be careful because of the way they translate land over there, transfer land. It's not the same. And some people are just trying to get paid, and you might get like scammed. If I was one, okay, I read that. Marshall just said, hi, Connie. Hello, squad. We don't have royals running our countries, but we do have royals that live here. Yeah, and I remember, what was his name? Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. No more King or, Kate Missington when they're visiting us. Yeah. Barbara, she doesn't use the last name Markle publicly anymore. When introduced, they say Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. That whole name is kind of like, it's interesting. Like the fact that it comes from her father's family too. There has to be, like every time we use it, that's associated. It seems like when we search, that's how, for the searching, right? But yeah, she does use the Duchess of Sussex because she's been corrected around the word the. Where I come from, the makes it the thing, right? I call everyone Black person, queen, king, that they are. Okay, good. Hello. Okay, that's a hello. Crystal, of course, everybody knows that the U.S. have royals, except for derangers. Yeah, and we are all royal. Like, even if these trolls ain't loyal, we all consider ourselves to be, a kind of royalty, if you will. Like, in our households, like a lot of women, Black women in this country will call their husbands their king, and he will call, or partner, partner, king or queen, just kind of across the board, right? Let's see. Stevie Wonder was recently given a Ghanaian passport by the president. He made vows. Yeah, you see a lot of Black Americans specifically going back to Ghana. And I think, Du Bois was around, he was having wars with his boy at Tuskegee for a long time. And he ended up going to Ghana and living and dying there. And he was born, when was Du Bois born? He was 18... I think he was the first African American graduate from Harvard. But so there's the whole Du Bois Center that we've talked about in Ghana. And Maya Angelou lived there, and a whole bunch of them at the same time. They were in Ghana having these conversations and helping in some ways, some small ways to help form a country in the beginning. And so, when Ghana became a country, then I think people in this country, black people specifically in this country, were so excited and happy. And it's the same reason that I think most African countries have flags that are the same color for the most part, red, black, green, gold, or some version of that. Because when Ethiopia was at war, I've been told by my family with the Italians that was a way of showing unity. They're going to have flags that are unified in this support around, like, they've never been colonized. And like my uncle, my mom's oldest brother, was I think they wanted to go and fight. So there has been in the diaspora kind of unification around, you don't get to own us, you don't get to control us, and we will be unified when Ghana became a country, during the war, one of the last wars in Ethiopia, and other things. And so, like, feeling like we're at odds, or feeling like, for me, feeling like at odds, or feeling not even at odds, but uncentered in the squad, it was strange. It was like, but I'm feeling more centered. Let's see, what did I miss? I don't see the First Lady regretting anything. She was very clear in her denigration of Meghan and Black Americans. I wonder if the four kings and the council will do anything to smooth over her insults. Words causes problems. That's absolutely true. Yeah, because the words, for me, they hurt. I was like, wow, is that for me too? And that's how we were opening the show talking about, like, that feeling of discomfort that I think some Nigerian people were feeling around, like, personally being attacked as a result of this. Like, when we're having conversations, no, you're attacking the First Lady, I didn't feel like I was. I felt like I was getting clarification around the words, and I also understand that can feel like I'm talking about you, and not the intent, but it's the effect, right? And so we have to be careful. Professor Z, there are many royals who use titles in the U.S. Thank you, Mary. When my Belizean says, when my grandfather fought in World War II, when he arrived back in Belize, he was awarded 20 acres of generational land from the King of England. This land cannot be sold. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Gwen Daniel Marshall, absolutely agree with you. No excuse for her. Lady Rose, Nigeria doesn't belong to the First Lady. Before you know, she'll be gone. She doesn't deserve to be a leader. The UK monarchy has done us wrong for years. Gwen's agreeing. The First Lady failed in bringing up her own daughter. What made her think she can change others' way of life by spewing BS? Yeah, we also have to, I think the First Lady also needs to remember that Meghan ain't no child. That's a grown woman, too. She might not have reached the same age of the First Lady. She might be 20 years behind her. Maybe less, somewhere in that range, though. 15 to 22 years, younger than her. And she ain't no baby. She's not a child. So, like, if you're going to put your finger in her face in a speech, then you can expect probably for other people to, and for Meghan, so I think we talked yesterday about that's like, I'm sunning you. Like, sunning is like, I'm telling you off like you're a child. So I'm sunning you. Like, so that's the colloquialism here in this culture, right? And how can, Nigeria, it belongs to, I would say, the descendants of Nigeria. Because up until we were, there was an interruption and a displacement, how many thousands of years were we growing up in a different continent? There wasn't choice around. It wasn't an immigration. It was a forced migration. And so if you're taken away from your family, and look what they took away. They took all these beautiful resources that were us and dispersed us all around the world. And so, of course, the continent's going to suffer as a result of that. But do we also take something away from us when we're having dialogue and we're sunning people? Like, what else are we doing? Are we causing harm? Is that what we want to do for someone who's a returnee in a way? And do we want to ask the question about, what are you here for? Is it because they gave her gifts? Is it because they gave her the gift of being, a crown princess in a way no one else is? Right? So that could be part of it. Those kings have power to work against her husband's re-election. She better watch out. Those kings have people, lots of them. Yeah, those kings and those kingdoms are old and rich and powerful, and it would be disrespectful anywhere to call out someone's princess, right? And they made her princess understanding what she had been through, I believe. And so now you, a Nigerian woman, are going to sun her publicly, disrespectfully, in a way that these, not just the media, but in a way that a lot of us feel it at the same time. But, this is, someone said a teachable moment yesterday in the chat. It's a teachable moment, and it's also a moment for us to reflect and to be able to say we're going to be stronger for it, right? We are stronger because you had this conversation, because we were forced to reflect on who we are and how we choose to love up on each other in the squad, like how we choose to hold each other up, how we choose to engage in discourse. We're not cussing each other out. Hello, Professor Lydia Washington Marshall, Mary Mann, Gwendolyn Daniels, Success Manual. That's the truth. Meghan is a brilliant, strong, beautiful lady. She is. And we are beautiful, and we are strong, and we are powerful, and we are united. Despite, is this our first kind of squabble? I don't even know if it qualifies as squabble, but it's like a first kind of something. Somebody can name it. I don't know what it is, but it's a first kind of something where I didn't feel in a complete alignment, or my alignment was off enough that it felt uncomfortable. Like, what's happening? I don't know what's happening, guys. I feel so sad. Help. That's how I was feeling. I'm not feeling like that right now. So for those of us who wanted to visit Nigeria, the First Lady's words will give us pause, because she obviously doesn't like African Americans from the Western world. Yeah, and that can be a thing, right? How come everybody always be dogging us out? And we have invariant B, as Toni Morrison said, that Black Americans have 43 different ways of using the word be. Why everybody always be on us? Why it always gotta be like that? It be trying out here in these streets, right? So, yeah, lots of us, can she stop us? It may give some of us pause, right? Is it enough pause for us to not go? That's another question. Because does the pause that we get from her, does that counter all the positivity that we experienced as a result of the Princess Duchess going there, right? I hope the Met Gala chastises the first woman. You would imagine somebody did you guys see the Duolingo owl out here in these streets making fun of Drake? You would think that if there's a symbol for the Met Gala, that the symbol would have said something. Marsha says the First Lady has caused damage to Nigeria with her bias and arrogance, and unfortunately the country will pay a price for that. Maybe American money will be lost in tourism while her husband is in power. And you know what else happened as a result of the First Lady and her words? I think people began to look in under her carpets, and found a lot of things that they found wanting. Did you know her husband, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, whoa, you come for me. A lot of people were coming right back for her. And I was like, oh, I never would have known that. Most of the people in the world would never have heard those things about the husband and his role and what he used to do, or even paid attention to it, had it not been for the comments that were made by, and people not feeling hurt as a result of those comments, intended or unintended. Whether pain is caused intentionally or unintentionally, it's still, if it's a wound, it needs to be addressed. Because for us to like be able to have peace, we need to be able to address and have redress around our emotional wounds. And for me, I think I know I got some clarity around, this isn't the squad. This is the squad. We have members who love the First Lady and some who felt attacked by our words. And I don't intend any harm, and I apologize if they felt harmed or if they were harmed by any of my words. I am making a public apology. That was not my intention. And if my words caused you harm and you felt harmed, I can say, I apologize. Marshall, the First Lady. Okay. Did anyone hear that Troll started the whole conversation? I have not heard that, Rosa Roberts, that a Troll started it. No, haven't. Rosa, that first woman is the troll. Mary says, Rosa, the first woman is the troll that started the conversation. Lady Rose, lots of people will pull out their businesses out of Nigeria because of what the First Lady said. Oof. Gwen, we aren't dumb over here. We are reacting to the words of the first woman. Some people try to make excuses for her. No excuse. Okay. Gwen says she agrees. I hope that an internal conversation is going on because the First Lady's words could derail tourists from visiting the country. It definitely could. I think that we've just heard that, like, that people are feeling like a pause around wanting or not wanting to go because they're afraid that the words were meant for them in a kind of way. And so if the words were meant for them, then then there needs to be a repair. There needs to be a reparative, restorative work so that that thing can happen. Has anyone heard that the First Lady said anything as a kind of redress or to address the comments, her own comments around that were adjacent to, next to, in the same sentence line as the name of our Princess Duchess, right? Has anyone heard that there was any redress around that? Let's see. Gwen, I hope that, okay, I think I read that, could derail tours. Marlene, exactly, her words could hurt a lot of people. Connie Balmer says, true, Gwen. Daniel, I like Isabella, but she went on my nerves defending that woman. Wait, what? What does that even mean? Oh, I think I know what that means. Okay. I won't be commenting on that. Yeah, so I think lots of people, and I think when we feel attacked, right, if we are on this side or if we are on that side, like, feeling attacked and not being able to separate someone saying the words hurt from, or not necessarily being unable, but in the moment, just feeling sort of like, oh no, this hurts, this is hurting me, like, how do I, like, I don't want to feel hurt, I don't want to feel harmed, and I don't feel good about this, like, and so, like, I know I was definitely up in my feelings, and I'm like, okay, Connie B, exactly, I just stopped commenting because they weren't listening. Okay, so people were feeling the same way. And I don't want people to not comment in here because they feel like I'm, I've said that I felt hurt. And I also want to be able to hear the other, like, people who are defending, if you will, the words, saying that they don't believe that that's not how they were intended. There's an argument for that. There is an argument for that because lots and lots of people are making it. And I've heard it, I've heard it in here, right? Let's see. I switched off. I'm over the notion that African Americans are less than because we don't know the exact tribe we're from. We have the same ancestors who were taken away as enslaved people. Yeah, how can we be less than when we created everything in this country, dang near, right? We are. We are amazing. And partially we're amazing because we come from who we come from. Like, they gave us the DNA. They gave us the genes. They didn't choose, for the most part, for us to be taken away. We were assets, and they were disrupted. Can you imagine? I saw this. It was a story, a letter. This woman wrote a letter to her child she may have been Nigerian. I can't remember where she was from. She was definitely West African, to the enslaved person who had been taken away, talking about how she mourned for her child who was taken away and didn't know where the child was, right? Because there definitely has been this notion, right? Oh, and there's a thing about notion. Okay. There definitely has been this notion around, you let us go. Like, in some cases, people believe we're sold, and like people's children, we are the children that were stolen away. There was trauma on both sides. We know how West Africans love their children, fathers, mothers, grandmothers, the same as we love ours. And so there's a hole in their heart the size of the United States of America, I would imagine. And do we cover up those wounds because in the way that we move? Like, okay, now y'all don't see us, y'all don't like us no more, y'all think this and that. Are we in the process of covering up? Because we are we are us. We are you. You are us. We were taken. What happens if your child gets taken away? That hole doesn't go away. And you're not talking about one kid. You're talking about, let's see, Connie, I agree, but I somewhat understand that she was protecting the First Lady. You're talking about, like, millions of people's children being taken away from them. And so how do you mourn that? When you have no power to create a ship. And if you could create a ship, you have no power to have the guns to go and get your baby back. And if you could, you don't know where they are. And this didn't happen for one person. This happened for millions of families, and multiple times in lots and lots of families. Entire tribes just about being erased. How do we deal with that? Like, that's what happened to our people in Nigeria when we were taken away, when our ancestors. Connie, yep, I heard her defense in the First Lady in a separate text. She tried to walk things back. I wonder if she lost subscribers. Oop. She was so keyed up in her defense of the First Lady. She was, oh no. Okay. Okay, let's say a prayer for her then. Exactly, but she was wrong on the First Lady. Yeah, and so I'm thinking about this as based on this conversation that we're having and making that connection to the fact that we were taken away from you guys. Like, for those of you Nigerians or wherever you're from in the diaspora, either if you're African descendant and you survived that whole atrocity of enslavement, people mourned for you for generations, and it wasn't just one generation of people that were taken. Imagine, for as long as we were here in this country being enslaved, let's say around 300 years, for 300 years people in West Africa were having their children stolen away, and so they have to have a hole in their culture the size of us, a hole in their hearts, right? And this is the opportunity to address that. Like, we had hurt on both sides, right? And Crystal Scott says, yes, that part, Lady Rose. Marsha, absolutely, she should have left him alone. Absolutely, we were still hurting and needed to cool it. Okay. What was the purpose of bringing up the Met Gala in Hollywood and Americans? Meghan was interested in her roots and happened to be an American. She deserved a little more respect. I agree with that. Miss Rosa, Maggie, hi, blah, blah. She made a dig at Meghan. My grandpa used to cry when he told us how slaves were separated from their families. You got me in here. Like, now I'm in my feelings. Like, now I am, like, mourning for my ancestors that were taken away from, like I say, I believe Fulani because my family are a family of cowboys, right? So I know my great-grandfather learned. And when you say your great-grandfather was born in 1865 or 1864, who was enslaved, who was born a slave on these plantations, that's not that long ago. How many of us have great-grandchildren in this space, right? That's not that long ago. It might sound like it because my great-grandpa waited till he was old to have babies, and still my grandmother's father, his mother was enslaved, and he was enslaved too. He was owned by somebody, which is wild, right? And so, like, the fact that we were taken away, and not for one You know, we see these stories about children being taken away, but can you imagine the ghost towns that people would live in and that people would have to try and exist in after not one generation, but let's say 300 years of people being taken away from you? And so we deal with this by being defensive. We deal with this by saying, well, at least you guys are in America. You have a chance to sometimes, right? Gwen, yes, unfortunately, she heard what she wanted to hear. But after listening again, she would hear what we heard. No insult to the Nigerian people. Tisa learned to never disparage Meghan and Harry in her scenarios. The Sussex squad doesn't play with any disloyalty towards Meghan. She lost squaddies too, then she learned not to do that. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. The First Lady made digs at Met Gala. Female film stars from America too. Why? That's Mary. Lady Rose, exactly just like the movie 12 Years a Slave. Heartbreaking. Yeah, so when I think, I'll speak for myself. So when I think about my ancestors who were caught up in this human trafficking, and not only was it human trafficking, and it wasn't just one generation, your babies, you had no control of what they did to your daughters and their bodies. We're talking about feminine products, but what about the feminine organ? And you got a little girl and she's 8 and somebody's looking at her in that way, and you have no control. That's what was visited upon us in this country for, like, to be envious of that. Take the trauma, have it, like, because that's where we made the culture from all of that, all of those things. You know, buck breaking, breaking our men down. We're still living with this stuff, right? We're still living with this stuff. And so when we see ourselves in you and we get rejected, it's like, okay. And I think that that's where foundational Black Americans are starting to come in. Like, when they hear that First Lady say that, that's a confirmation that you guys don't care about us, right? That there should be a separation. I'm saying no, like, how can I'm your child? Or we come from the same people. The only thing is that we were trafficked. We need to all have compassion and be careful around our words, because when we get to the root of it, at the root, your child was taken away. Not just your child, your grandma's child, your auntie's child, your cousin's child. All your cousins, almost on your daddy's side and your mama's side, had this man, like, over and over and over and over again. And so, I just read something. Joyce, hi Gwen, was I'm trying to get over my anger. Maggie, like, is this helping? Like, the fact that, like, we are them, right? We are you, you are us. I think that we should drag the First Lady's daughter for a solid month. Oh my. Gwen, I'm taking time off from her. Oh, okay. Be forewarned about squaddies. These folks don't play with Meghan. Okay, so, you know, I am going to disappoint you at some time. Like, I will say that. I disappoint myself. I've disappointed my mama. I disappointed my grandmama, my aunties at times. And so what I try to say is that it is 99% unintentional, and if it's intentional, then it will be as clear as a Kendrick diss, right? There will be no question, and I try and do my best to bring love and joy and like have intelligent because the squad is, I've never seen anything like the squad. Like, with these receipts are research. And that's what we do in dissertations and thesis, like when we're writing a thesis, right? We do this work. And I could ask the squad, y'all, everybody got receipts upon receipts upon receipts. Thank you for the forewarning. Let's see. Maggie exactly couldn't believe she brought up Meghan's name. Hello, let's see. Hello, everyone. This channel just popped up in my feed. Glad I clicked on it. Rhonda says, still slightly uneasy about the comments. It's definitely not as heavy as it was a few days ago. Yes. And when we think, for me, when I think about the hole in the hearts of our ancestors that we were taken away from, Connie B wants to know what she has to say now. Oh, I don't know if I belong in that discourse. But when I think about the hole in that has to be in the hearts of the people in all of these West African countries. Go back for now and so, that, you know, sometimes when we feel guilty, and I'm not saying she does, but there's a defensiveness that comes sometimes because of the understanding of what happened to people who've experienced trauma, right? Mary Man, please don't disappoint. Mary, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to disappoint. I'm human. Like, if you agree or feel the vibes most of the time and understand that I'm coming from a place where I want us to, like, thrive and to be able to have different kinds of conversations, right? That's my hope in building this channel. Like, that when we're building this channel, and we are in our discourse, when you guys comment in the chat, we are building this thing from scratch. This is going to be what we make it, right? This is going to be what we make it. And I am, like, I'm telling you, my mom would be disappointed in me all the time, like, oh, my child. And, you know, like, in the end, I think wasn't like the whole picture of me. The First Lady's daughter's identity as queer and doesn't hold her mother's views from what I read. Okay, maybe that's why she lives in America. She's an activist for LGBTQ. I'd rather build her up, but dragging her mom. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. So she might identify with the camp community, right? If she's identifying as queer, that, like, okay, that would also be part of her culture here, if that's the case. If she doesn't like America, why did she send her daughter to the USA? So Success Emmanuel. Oh, Connie, please give her another chance. She's learning personally on this. So I'm going to say this for me. I hope that when I mess up, that I don't mess all the way up, but that you guys give me grace with the understanding that I'm, you know, and maybe, you know, it will be what it will be. And, like, we all at times need some of that grace, right? We hurt each other, we hurt ourselves, and that's the whole thing about that. We have these intersecting identities, we have this intersecting trauma. We, you know, with the First Lady of Nigeria, with the First Lady of Nigeria, we intersect around, you know, the children. We are children of, like, that were taken or lost. And so the fact that hundreds of years went by and millions of people were taken to you. Can you imagine what a hole in that culture would be like if, you know, for some tribes and some villages, most of the people were taken away? What's left? Like, they had to deal with that trauma too. And so we're all recovering, right? We're all recovering. I think call me out when I'm making a mess of something, and, you know, let me know, like, it's not my intention to hurt unless it's my intention to hurt, right? And that is very rarely, like, you hurt one of mine, then yeah, that's something, like, literally, not metaphorically. I can deal with conversations. Professor Z, you're fabulous. You bring everyone into the Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Did I miss something? Marshar said. Didn't mean to. Joyce A. Nah, although there's no such thing as bad publicity, and the daughter will gain. Hopefully the daughter will get some compassion, because what must it be like to have to walk in those shoes? You know, when we have difficult parents, just like when we have difficult children, it's challenging to walk in those shoes, right? We're also kings by European slave traders, and that's how they finance their kingdom. That's a conversation we avoid. Okay. Marsha, I absolutely love that your opinion matters. It absolutely does. Okay. Has anyone heard the First Lady's official from Nigeria tried to clarify? No, Rhonda. Rhonda says, has anyone heard? Oh, I thought you said it. She did. Okay. If the First Lady. I missed the if. I was getting excited. Or any official from Nigeria tried to clarify the comments. Professor didn't use reach 1K subscribers, so arrange for super chats and membership. I will join. The memberships are so much work that you have to put together. I've been working on it. You see my little emoji up there, that Meghan one? That's one I made. These trolls ain't loyal. Right? I have to sing that. I'm a weirdo too, guys, if you haven't figured that out. First Lady gave us the ick. I really don't want anyone to mess with her daughter, then we would be no better. Do you think that the sins of the father are visited on the children? The sins of the mother are visited on our children. Haven't heard anything. Crystal, yes, I'll support the daughter any day. Gwen, thanks. Maybe the daughter got away, right? Because I know, like, for people who have difficult parents, and I have usually, Kendrick talked about this too. There we are with hip hop stuff. We deal with this, like, if you have a child of a parent who is challenging like that, you will deal with that over the course of your whole lifespan. You'll deal with the trauma of whatever the emotional abuse is in so many relationships, right? Marlene says, thanks, Connie. The more voice that push back against the so-called royal families, talking heads, the better. Lydia says, I agree. Thank you, Lady Rose. Yeah, we got 1,000. I was like, ah! You guys did it. You guys did it. You guys did it. You guys did it. I'm just like so overwhelmed with the support that, and I feel so good in this space every time I'm in this space. Again, you guys know, some of you have been here. Welcome to the people who this is your first time. Welcome. And for the people, like, I have anxiety, and so before I get on, I'm like, I'll be talking to myself on the mic and blah, 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 and then I'm trying to figure it all out. And as soon as I hit the button and I see the first person, I'm like, I can exhale, because I love the squad. And because at its root, like, we were all feeling some kind of way about the Duchess when we heard about her story. And then Tina and Michelle okay, I saw something. Please forgive our first lady. She was definitely high on something. Wow, making that speech. Ooh. Marsha, thank you for letting me know. Redirect. Let's drag the first lady for a solid month instead. Okay. I posted her daughter X to expose her mother's hypocrisy. Okay. Whenever I think of X, I think of Malcolm. Like, I don't want Elon Musk to take Malcolm's letter. Like, that was... Yeah, yeah. There we go again with my mind, right? That's Malcolm's X. I posted her daughter on Twitter to expose her mother's hypocrisy. That's so sad that she has to, you know, I've heard allegedly some people refer to these kinds of parents as unfortunate mothers. You can see what the Derangers showcase on the stage, nakedness everywhere, the men are well clothed. I guess she's not very fond of designers, as she's disapproved of her daughter's model. Connie says, sure success, Emmanuel. Rhonda, Gwen, Daniel, that's not good. I'm certain she knows the confusion it caused. At success, we are not a hateful group. Yeah, like this healing. I swear, guys, like yesterday I was feeling so... In the morning, I was like, okay, I gotta do this show. And I felt better by the end because it was the day before yesterday. But then by today now, I think after we started making these connections, like, we love each other. Like, we do, right? Because I am Meghan Markle. Can I get an I am Meghan Markle in the chat, guys? That's not good. I'm certain she knows the confusion it caused. Let's see. Wait, I saw something. We will eventually at 6. I don't know what that means. We're not a hateful group. Okay, Connie, I would not unsubscribe from that channel because there was no malice intended, but the squad needs to grow. Okay, so you guys are having conversations. Yeah, like when we feel hurt, how do we deal with that, right? And so for me, it is to address it straight on, to head on. And my mother wouldn't, as a young child, when I would address things, she would say I'm not grown. 5, 6, like thinking and I wasn't thinking I was grown even when as a little kid. And if I was trying to have these conversations, I just needed clarity. And if it's the adult, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I was just trying to get clarity. And grace is a hard thing. Grace is a hard thing for has been for me. I'm learning to give people grace. And I feel better when I do. Right? That my mother gave, I would say, maybe too much grace. And the world needs more of that. We make mistakes if we know that we're good people at the root, right? If we know that the people that we love and listen to and follow and they hurt us, is there a way for us to address that with them. Sometimes we need some time away, I guess, right? I just need a minute. But sometimes to have a conversation, for me to have a conversation about the thing that caused the trauma is that's how I address it. And people have said to me, since I was like a little kid, you're direct. I am. I just try not to be harsh. Like when some people will say things like, yeah, whatever they say. I don't want to be harsh because I don't like harshness. So who am I, if I'm being harsh, to expect grace and sympathy, empathy, and, kindness, even when we're feeling at our worst, right? Connie Balmer says, I am huge Meghan Markle. Thank you, Connie. Marshar says, the daughter said, black bigotry is also a problem. We shouldn't be dividing ourselves or neglecting those within our community. Trans lives matter. Black trans lives are treated as most invisible. Yeah, and that's why that whole thing, like today about the camp, and that's when I made that connection. And let me move this one. Let me turn this one off. I may turn off the wrong one. Let's see. No, I did. See, yep. So you guys, I'm going to put this, transition it over. So this camp can be representative of what the daughter, that's black queer culture, if you will. And that's also created out of trauma. Maybe people's mom saying, put some proper clothes on, don't go out there looking like that, that's too much. And so the queer community saying, no, we're going to be queer and we're going to be too much. And that also gets said about black people around the world, like, you're too loud, you're too much, you're too this, you're too that. And so the Met Gala, without necessarily understanding what they were doing, saw a fashionable thing and thought, oh, we can do this thing, and it's not going to be a black event, though. It's going to be an event for, rich people, but we're going to steal the idea of what it is about turning up. And a lot of us have that turn up culture because we only had a few minutes to live our entire lives, and we needed that in order to go back to doing this grueling work that we had to do. And so when parents say, when grandparents say, when society says, you're too much, black person, you're, quiet down, settle down, don't be loud, the queer community happened to, just say, nope, we're gonna. And so Halle Berry's not being queer in this film, but she's a representative of what that looks like in BAPS. And some people say, oh, that's ghetto, that's this. And yeah, it is. It comes from what people call the ghetto. Yeah, it comes out of our pain. We were forced to be in these situations, and you wanted to make everything about us negative. And we're saying, nope, we're reclaiming that. I am Princess Meghan. All right, thank you, Rosa. We're reclaiming those things about ourselves. We're going to love them, and we're going to be out there, out in the public, and we're going to be proud with our loudness. We're going to be proud with our... And honestly, I think my father is, when I look at his features, he looks very Nigerian. Joyce, nobody ain't got time to drag that first lady for a month or even beyond a few days. Congratulations, Professor Z. First, thank you, Merlene. First time listening, enjoy your podcast. Thank you. Yeah, so it is a process of rebellion to be who you are in your fullest self. So when Meghan is showing up as her fullest self, okay, I don't want to offend the culture, right? I want to be able to show up as my fullest self. Gwen says, just going through that with my mom's side of the family. I don't hold grudges, but I don't forget. Okay, Gwen, you said that. Marshar, I am Meghan Markle. Thank you, Marshar. I am Marshar. One thing I will do is fight for justice for those who receive the most injustice. Yes, we absolutely need that. And, fighting can be tiring. And I think that's why, we definitely need you, Marshar. You always bring a kind of voice to the space and make us remember that we have to also fight, even when we're uncomfortable. Gwen is agreeing with Maggie. Yes, Miss Rosa, that part. I've been a Harry fan since he was a child, says T. McD. A very strong Meghan since the Tig and Suits. Therefore, don't mess with my fave. Period. Absolutely. Joyce Anderson, love the lips. Professor Zinzi, you do an excellent job. Your knowledge of so many stories is refreshing. Thank you. I am Meghan Markle. And you know what? This comes from Africa. If I have to say it, or I don't have to say it, but my grandmother was a storyteller. Just like the Jollies of whatever parts of West Africa we descended from. The Jollies were keeping the stories for our people, right? The Jollies held that history, and we have Jollies. And, again, the French word griot, I don't typically use it, but it is typically a word that people understand. But the Jollies, the Jollies kept the history for us. And so how that got translated in this country is that the same thing. Our Jollies, our ancestors kept the history, told us stories to keep us safe, right? Crystal Scott Marshall, that is exactly how I ended up here, part of this community. Saw way too much hate against Meghan and found my way. Yes, and you were guided, I would say, maybe to Crystal by the ancestors, right? Because it's guiding me for sure, and I'm sure it was guiding Tina and Michelle when they created the Sussex Squad podcast. T. McD says, Marshall, that's me. T. McD, Meghan and Harry fan for real. Yep. Joy Armour says, Professor Zinzi, I'm really enjoying listening to you. I cooked, did my laundry, and now I'm enjoying my wine. Oh my goodness. Gail Tapscott. Oh, okay. Met Gala charity event. Maybe First Lady's not aware of that. Okay. Agree. In the words of Rhonda says, in the words of Auntie Maxine Waters, I'm reclaiming my time. I am Meghan Markle. That's right. Reclaiming our time. Crystal, yes, me too. When my kids also know it. And Rhonda says, exactly. Okay. I fight for black, let's see. Yeah, look, okay. Joyce says, I fight for black women all the time. I won't stop. Can't stop. 100. I am Meghan Markle. Love the shoes. Love. Oh, I love the helmet. Yes, we are Marshall up in these streets too. Like, I know that the squatties have to be related to Marshall, because Joyce, you and Marshall, you guys team up, boy. Let's see, Gwen Daniel. Got it. My daughter laugh at me all the time. She will say, I don't mess with Meghan Harry. Isn't that the truth? When you find a kind of a kinship, and that's what this space is. Like, we're like cousins and siblings, if you will, around our faves. Like, and we are so like the receipts, and having an understanding, and having, in my mind, like the facts that you guys bring to this podcast and to other spaces. The squad is an intelligent squad, right? With the James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, when she described James Baldwin, I'll have to find that quote. I think it was at his eulogy. Oh gosh, when Toni Morrison eulogized James Baldwin with a ruthless imagination, she talked about him, just like what he brought to us, and I will have to remember to bring that in and read part of that for you guys, because it is one of the most, I read it probably monthly, James Baldwin's eulogy that Toni Morrison wrote, because it is my guiding light. It is my map of how I want to live and be in the world. And that's how I say, like, the ancestors are constantly teaching us, like, their words are there. All 5,793 pages, or whatever that number is, or 6,900 that James Baldwin wrote, that Toni Morrison talks about in the eulogy. When we look at our best people, right? And Meghan definitely, in my mind, is one of our best people. When we look to our best people for guidance, what else can we be but smart, kind, warriors? Because we got to have some of that too. And Joyce and Marshall remind us of that we have to have the warrior in us too. Like, we can't, it don't have to come out all the time, right? And you don't get to scandalize me and tell me that everything about myself is wrong. No. And I'm going to do me, and me is an African descended person who carries those things with me. Let's see. I don't get it if she is Thai American, why she say I have. Wait, did I miss something? I don't like bullies. I don't get it if she is Thai American, why she have dark in America. Did I miss something, Fatima? I don't know. That's what my girl said too, because also they know that I fight for them the same. They call me the mama bear. Right. Okay. Gwendy, that's Marshar says, I'm very passionate about protecting my children. An elder lawyer once told me I would be an excellent advocate for elders. I gotta fight for those who are preyed upon. I taught my kids to stand up to. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, we do all of that, right? And we still we show up brilliant, wonderful, kind, warm warriors. Beautiful too, right? Warriors for our Duchess and for ourselves. Because when we felt attacked, let's just face it, for most of us, when the Princess Duchess was under attack, we also felt that was personal for a lot of us. And we're like, nope, I gotta, out in these streets, we were out here in these social media streets just being warriors. And then again, I know I say it all the time, but Tina and Michelle and Tina made us a tribe, right? And so, like, we're going to have disagreements in the space. And we are more than that. We are more than our biggest disagreements. We are the Sussex squad because they made us that, right? And we are also in the process of making ourselves all the time, every day. The fact that we are out here and we come together in these spaces all the time to discuss these subjects that have meaning to us, to discuss these people who have meaning to us. And they have meaning to us because we identify with them. We have experienced some of the hurt that they've experienced. We've experienced some of the joy that they've experienced. We are brilliant as they are brilliant. We are kind. We are warm. Why else would we identify with them if we were not? Would we be out here in these streets identifying with the Duchess if we didn't share their values? If we didn't share her values, why would we be showing up? Because we're not like your average warriors, right? We discuss intersectionality and how the British media, UK media, does these things, and we bring the receipts. My mother once told me that I should have been a lawyer. Me too, Marsha. It's wonderful to give the vulnerable a feeling that someone cares. Yes, I see some seconding. The Sussexes and Trump are my litmus test. Okay, whenever a YouTube channel about Meghan comes up on my feed, I listen to know if it's positive, and if it's not, I unleash my comments on them. Yes. T. McD, I bet you, Marshar says, I bet you would have made an excellent lawyer. T. McD, Marshar, I love your passion. Gwen says, I'm loyal to people who are doing the work for other people. Yeah, and I think definitely we feel that. I feel that, right? Not trying to speak for anybody else in the space, but I think that we wouldn't be here if we didn't feel that. If we didn't feel this connection to the experience. And if Meghan was like trash, if the squad was trash, would we be here? And I think that is the lesson in all of this. We showed up, and some of us, on both sides, or on different sides, maybe not both, there was more than two sides, felt some kind of way, whether we are, and understand that we're directly descended from, for Yoruba, maybe we're defending or feeling like we're being attacked and not understanding that. And if we are Black Americans or diasporans, and maybe feeling like, wow, I can't believe she said that thing because it felt like she was attacking me. And also the fact that we're a member of the squad, we knew we had to work it out. Right? T. McD says, let's see. T. McD says, my girls are the same because I raised them to be strong. Yep. And that's not an easy road, being strong. It's not. Connie, yes, Marshall says, Connie, yes, sometimes vulnerable people don't know what to do out of fear. Sometimes we can build them up to bring out their own courage. Yes, absolutely, Joyce Anderson. Mary Mann, I agree with you. That's my litmus test as well. Marshall, absolutely agree. Yep, thank you, Marshall. Connie says, Marshall, mine was to be a nurse, but I became a banker and took some lessons for nursing. It was hard work, so I do both, 20% nursing and 60% the bank. Yes. Big ups. Bail Bond says the first lady is non-Nigerian. What the world saw during H&M's visit was what Nigeria's Black Americans, you are loved and welcome to Nigeria, to Africa. And for me, I think you guys in the space have said that and affirmed that. Like, just as the squad, as being a member of the squad, I have been affirmed today, and you have shored up my heart and my spirit. I'm going to go through these last slides. We have been in here for a minute, y'all. So, let's see. I am Meghan Markle. We Sussex Squad. We have so much love. We don't hate in the Sussex Squad. That's so true. Sending love and blessings to everyone. I see a good evening. Let me get these slides. Guys, my eyes are so tired. What am I doing? Okay, here we go. All right, so we got that one. So we talked about the friend and Warri, Meghan's connection. She understands that she's also directly descended from their impact on Black Americans. We talked about that. Healing and moving forward. Okay. I can't see your comments in this second, guys. So I'm gonna go to this slide and not gonna repeat what the First Lady said again today. Next slide. Let's see. Got that. Insights, Meghan's connection, Americans, Nigerians. Okay, healing. Healing starts with open, respectful dialogue. How can we move forward from this? We need to create spaces for honest conversations where we listen more than we speak. Initiatives like cultural festivals, those can be helpful. This is an educational exchange, and collaborative community projects can help bridge gaps. Embracing our differences while finding common ground can be key, right? Let's also be mindful of the media. Yeah, we know about them's role in potentially driving a wedge between us. We must not let external forces exploit our internal disagreements, right? So, and still we rise. We know we typically end there. In the spirit of resilience and unity, let's reflect on the powerful words of Maya Angelou's poem. I will just say, and still I rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. ... And still like air I rise. So I want to say a special thank you to Lydia, who whenever I'm on and she's available, she's always popping in and helping us out. So we've got this silly little poem. Sussex Squad, respect the mic. Lydia keeps the chat alight. Lydia keeps the chat aight. That's what I made it. I'll start again. Sussex Squad, respect the mic. Lydia keeps the chat aight. Super chat love, a neon light, podcast future shining bright. Meghan's message soaring high. And we had our first super chat donation, and that was pretty cool. I was like, okay, I set it up right. So I want to say a special thank you for everyone who showed up in the chat. I want to say a special thank you. I don't know if Lydia's still here, but if she is, to Lydia, who has been holding us down. She's been holding us down, period. And trolls ain't no match for us, though, right? So these trolls ain't loyal. They're not loyal to themselves. They're here with their, whatever. We can all say, can I get these trolls ain't loyal in the chat? Can y'all say that? Let's give them these trolls ain't loyal. I love it. I'm devoted to the Sussex Squaddies. I'm sorry if I missed some of you guys. Connie says, Maggie says I was trying to... Oh, Maggie, so sorry, Maggie. Maggie says I was trying to block the troll. Special shout out to Maggie. Thank you so much. Have to get your poem, Mary Man. I love it. I'm devoted to Sussex Squaddies and love to support our faves. Thank you, Mary. Tribalist haters. That's what lit... Oh. I don't know what I'm walking into. These trolls ain't loyal. Thank you, Crystal Scott. And if y'all don't know what these trolls ain't loyal refers to, boy, I don't know how I would tell you to look it up. Let's see. Only a moderator and Professor Z can block the troll. So, yeah, these trolls ain't loyal. Who's the troll, guys? Do we know? So, I just want to say thank you for everyone who showed up in the chat today. I really am feeling light, like the first time I know Connie was here for our first show, and so many of others. Like, and I was super giddy and super goofy, and I'm feeling like that now after we've had this conversation. So I want to thank all of you for showing up today and showing out. Thank you for putting the comments in the chat. Thank you for these trolls ain't loyal. These trolls ain't loyal. I'm gonna thank you. Like I'm super goofy too. Thank you, Gwen. And that comment I just read is a troll. Okay, which one was that? I'm sad. I'm like giddy. I'm like high in my mind on life with you guys today. Marsha, these trolls ain't loyal. Not even. Oh gosh. Ooh. I'm just gonna leave my eyes on that, Marsha. Whoa. Apparently, that's her stepdaughter. Himpel. That was Himpel. Was our first donation. That was so. Thank you. So I know I did the work, so it works. Thank you, Himpel, for doing that. Absolutely true, Marshar. Gwen Daniel says, bye, Professor Z. Love this podcast. Love all the Squatty family. The troll just got sprayed. Thank you. Because, like, but if we give them these trolls ain't loyal, then, like, they know we're united and we got jokes and we're brilliant and we're kind and we're smart. And, you know what? We'll use some spray too, right? So, as we go out into the world today and we exit this space again, I just want to say thank you so much for showing up for the Duchess. Thank you for showing up for us. Thank you for helping me today get clarity in my own head about why this thing was bothering me so much. And I think it does go back to an ancestral wound, that epigenetic trauma that we experience in our DNA. From being brought here, from like all the generational trauma that we've had to go through, and just thinking about the hole in the heart that has to be in people in all of these African countries that Black Americans and other diasporans were taken from. And perhaps that's a reason for some of the defensiveness, because you're not talking about, and even if it's one kid, and Matt, you've seen stories probably about when one kid gets taken, but when it's hundreds of years of children being stolen away, we don't talk about that, and that's a shame. That's a shame that we don't in our culture sit around and talk about for hundreds of years how our people and me, my family was stolen, and what that did to us, how it devastated all of us, right? And sometimes when the devastation is that deep, the only thing you can be is defensive. Especially if it looks like that, to some people, Black Americans look like they're thriving. That hurt is still there. The money doesn't matter. Like, we are not essentially capitalists. So if people have money, that doesn't matter. If that trauma is still visited on us, right? If the sins of the father are visited on the sons and daughters, how much trauma have we had? Thank you so much, Connie, for saying that. Thank you, everybody. So I just wanted to say that. When we think about like empathy for her, if we think about like, I'm sure like how many of her ancestors were taken, and when this beautiful person who comes from people who were stolen shows up and she's treated like she belongs, and not only does she belong, she's royalty, right? So she left the country. What? I just read what? So anyway, as we go, oh boy, okay. As we go into our regular lives and we leave this space, maybe to go into other people's spaces perhaps and do more cleaning, right? I hope that we have gotten something out of the conversation that we've all engaged in today. I really appreciate you. You always show up when I'm here. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you for saying you enjoyed it. And I am going to end here, and it'll probably run for another minute or two until I shut it off the other way. But you guys have a wonderful decoration day, right? If you don't know what that means, go back to the beginning. And I will see you next time. Marshar is wild. So, goodbye for now. And I will say ciao. Bye, guys.